Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Hope everybody's doing well. Good evening. Come on in, everybody. Come on in. We are here to get ready to do some training. Hope everybody's doing well and had a good week, restful week, or weekend, I should say. Hey, Gary, how's it going?
Great, Clarence. How about yourself?
No complaints. Doing well.
Good weekend?
Yeah, good weekend. Had to get some stuff done around the house, but you know how that is. Got to knock those little chores out when you can.
Absolutely.
How you doing, Jeff?
Doing all right.
Good, good. Hope everybody's had a great week. People starting to jump on in here. Yeah. Come on in, everybody. Come on in.
I see some familiar names up there, Clarence,
Yeah.
on the board. So
Okay.
kudos to the ones that have checked in with 3 or 4 weeks in a row here.
Absolutely.
Hope it's been worth their while and they've learned some things and put it to good use.
Absolutely. I know it's been information overload, but that's what we do. We got to get that information out there and just keep repeating it over and over again. You gonna make it to Colorado, Gary?
Not going to make it.
Not gonna make
My,
it.
my wife is going to be in Arizona that same time,
Oh wow.
and I'm left home holding the fort.
Hey, somebody got to keep the fort okay while she's gone. So that's a good thing. That's a good
You
thing.
might say she is the R of the family. I'm a good you too at best.
Hey, happy wife, happy life. That's what they say. Happy wife, happy life. Well, good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. For those that are coming in, we are going to be getting started very soon.
How many do we have on the call tonight, Clarence?
So far we have 15, but we had about, let me double check. I think it was like 170 something that had registered. Uh, somewhere up in there. Yeah, I think it was like 171, I think it was when last time I looked at it. 171. So that's a combination of all of the meetings combined using the same link. So
Uh-huh.
a lot of those people might be repeats, but still uh, just good to know that people are interested in the training and want to get better and do the things that it takes to be successful basketball officials. So that's the most important part. All right. How was your weekend, Jeff? You on mute. I said, how was your weekend?
Busy.
Yeah, that's
Busy.
typically how it goes.
Had first football scrimmages. Well, second football scrimmage. Had
Okay.
a thing for my kid on Sunday. So
Okay.
Your real season starts Friday, right?
what's
This
that?
Friday. The real season starts this Friday, correct?
For high school.
Yeah,
I
for high school.
don't do high school anymore. I stopped doing it 2 years ago. This will be the third year I haven't done it. But yes, the high school season starts Friday, or at least, yeah, I believe Friday, maybe Thursday, depending on where we're I think CPS might start Thursday. Yeah, so
I was up in your area. I was up in your area over the weekend watching my 8-year-old grandson play his first tackle football game up in Huntley High School.
oh wow, you went way north.
Yeah.
Especially where you are.
That's what we do, man.
Yeah.
We got a
Gotta make
granddaughter
those-
that plays volleyball and softball, and grandson that plays football and basketball. And if there's nothing going on at home, we hop in the car and go watch a ball game.
Okay.
Make it a road
Nothing
trip.
wrong with that. That's way up there. Okay.
Good
No
old-
mileage checks either.
Huntley was far when I lived in the western suburb, so I know how that
Nice facility up there.
is.
Yeah.
And that area's grown too. That's not what it used to be when I first moved to Chicago area. It's like the population has grown.
Our son lives between Woodstock and Crystal Lake.
Okay.
You know,
that's-
the Bull Valley area up there.
Yeah, that's a good distance up there. Really for me now, but it even was when I lived where I lived. I lived in Wheaton for about 15 years. I remember growing up doing basketball games and football games. So, but they expanded that school district, population grew. It's one of those communities that had that housing boom, and a few thousand families moved into that community with cheaper homes, basically cheaper new homes. I'll say it that way. Probably not that way anymore, but it's a nice little area. But no, I don't start till after Labor Day.
Right.
My actual season. So.
All right. Good evening, everybody. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Probably have a few people still coming in late, but we're gonna go ahead and get started. Just want to wish everybody happy Monday. Hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. Well rested, took care of some family time and got some rest and all that good stuff whenever you can, because we got to get ready for the season, because before we know it, it will be here. So again, my name is Clarence Cooper. I'm an IHSA basketball clinician. On the call, we have my colleagues here, Gary Gustafson, Jeff Rutledge, Tracey Carothers, who will be chiming in throughout the evening. And just to FYI, Gary, we're going to get into some video review stuff a little bit later.
Okay.
So we'll get you guys we'll kind of pass the mic around, and we'll try to get you guys to kind of chime in and share your expertise on what you see on various plays. So right now, I'll go and pass it over to you, Gary. Let you say a few words to everybody before we get started.
Thank you, Clarence. I probably don't have a whole lot to say after what is this, our fourth Monday evening in a row, correct?
Number 4, yep.
And I'm assuming that many of our people in the audience this evening are repeat.
Yes.
And it's time we have thrown an awful lot of information at you. We realize that. And it's time for you as an official, as a new official in the 1 to 5 area of experience. It's time to all of you to jump in and help yourself become a student of the game. And it takes a lot of discipline to be able to get some free time and look around and do some reading and do some play watching and learn a little bit more each time we have a meeting like this. So I think by now all your ink pens are out of ink from all the information that we've shared with you over the last 4 Mondays, and that's a good thing. So, and it's like, again, it's time for you to jump in on board and help yourself make yourself better. So.
Awesome.
Having said that, that's all I got, and I hope I haven't repeated myself to a number of you, but this last 4 weeks has been fantastic. Learning opportunities for all, as myself. So, So.
Absolutely, absolutely. Jeff Rutledge, you want to say anything or welcome everybody to the call?
No, not much. I mean, welcome everybody for coming. Obviously, we have, a lot that we are going to discuss tonight and moving forward. We will have some other meetings here in September, but we're still trying to figure out the exact which days. We will not have a meeting next week. So to make that clear to everybody. And for the most part, thanks for coming. Ask questions, be willing to listen, be willing to, no question's a dumb question, guys. If you don't ask a question, probably the only dumb question, the one you don't ask. Because we don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know until you ask. And we were all in the situations that some of you were in, especially the younger officials, 1 to 5 years. I'm in my 30th year. There's still things that I still need to know, and learning from myself, watching film, and talking to veteran officials like Gary and other individuals. So please be interactive in these things. It's the whole point of this is to get you guys to know things that, to add some years of experience without actually having direct experience on the floor. So enjoy. Thanks for coming, and ask questions tonight, guys.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you guys for chiming in and welcome everybody to the call. So tonight we're going to touch on quite a few different things. First, I want to start off with talking about terminology. Just like in any occupation, there are always various languages or things that pertain to that occupation. And in basketball is no different. So we as officials have to learn the terminology of what we're doing and learn the language so we can know how to communicate with our partners, as well as communicating with the coaches and the players and our score table, because those are the main individuals that we're going to be communicating with the most throughout every game that we officiate. So with that being said, let me share my screen here and let me do this, and then we're going to get going. Oh, sorry, hold on. All right. So we're going to go here and we're going to share the screen. So first I want to start off with court coverage, and I'll make this bigger so everybody can see it. Hopefully you guys can see everything here. All right. Yeah. All right. So court coverage. So as you know, we basically have two types of mechanics that we're using as far as officiating crews. We either have a 2-person or a 3-person mechanic. Now, of course, some of this may be familiar to a lot of you all, and then some people this may be new. But again, feel free to ask questions. Put them in the chat, Jeff, if you can. Just kind of look in the chat and let me know if there's any questions that need to be addressed, or if it's something you can answer. Feel free to go ahead and answer. But one thing I always recommend when we are doing any type of training is to always visualize the 2-person mechanic or coverage areas, 2-person coverage areas, and the 3-person coverage areas. Okay. You need to have that etched in your mind. So you should always be able to realize when you're on a court, visualize what these 2 different types of coverage areas should look like. So why is that important? It's important because it helps you understand what's your primary responsibility and what's your secondary responsibilities. Okay. Obviously in the 2-person, you see the trail here, this red area is the primary coverage area for the trail in the 2-person. And in here, the 2-person for the lead, the yellow is the primary responsibility for the lead. Obviously with 2-person, it's only 2. So sometimes you may have dual coverage area, which is usually kind of in the lane area. All right. So you may have double whistles in 2-person sometimes. We try not to, but sometimes it happens. In 3-person, the blue area is the trail responsibility. The green is the center's responsibility. On the professional level, they call it the slot. So if you ever hear somebody say the slot, that's what they're referring to as the center position. And then the lead is in the yellow down here in the 3-person. Again, understanding your primary area coverage and what areas you're responsible for, that's very vital in what we do. It's very vital in what we do. Now, there are some areas sometimes where we may have to overlap and help our partners depending on how the play shifts or how the ball moves or whatever the case may be within the flow of the game. But these are our primary coverage areas. And this is why I'm really stressing this, is because as I go forward and talk about tonight's topic of officiating with vision, it'll help you understand why we are so strict about making sure we cover our own primary coverage area and not cover somebody else's primary coverage area unless we're helping them in a time of need. Okay, so that's very important. All right, so let's jump into the terminology real quick. All right, so I'm going to skip through some of these. I'm not going to read them all. If you want to take screenshots or what have you, feel free to do so. But just some things that you can find in the NFHS Basketball Officials Manual. Few of these I added myself, but for the most part, these are just some of the various terminologies you should get familiar with. 1-hole, 2-hole, 3-hole. Okay, we've heard that before. Some people call it the ABC position or 1, 2, 3 position. Okay, and that's talking about the lead. Okay, referring to the lead position, lead official that's on the baseline is in one of these positions based on the movement of the ball and or players. Okay, and typically, let me just jump back for a second. So when we talk about the lead here, let's say this is the leads coverage area in the yellow, you know, the 1-hole is out here. 2-hole is usually down here by the lane line, and usually when you make your rotation, you come into the 3-hole. Some people, they may say it differently or what have you. A position, B position, C position, or 1, 2, 3 position, but that's what they're referring to, okay, in general. So just to get, again, familiar with the terminology, and guys, jump in, you know, Gary, Jeff, feel free to jump in if you've got anything you want to add along the way. And Tracey, if you're on too as well, feel free to jump in. All right. Obviously ball side, I'm just jumping down again to the bottom here. Ball side, you always have to know what ball side is. Why is that important? Because ball side is typically strong side. Okay, wherever the ball is, that's typically our strong side. Now, in some cases, it may be the weak side. Okay, it could be the weak side, but in most cases, it could be a strong side position. Okay, and that's where we want to make sure we usually in two-person, we want to make sure that trail is taking care of that ball. If it's in their primary area, if it's in the lead's primary area, they got to make sure they're watching that ball as well as the players in that area. Again, knowing your primary coverage area is very crucial, it's very vital in what we do. The players and the ball are going to move. We move slightly to make adjustments to keep all those players and the ball in our field of vision. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later too. All right, so boxing in principle, okay? Boxing in principle, that refers to making sure that if it's a 2-person crew or a 3-person crew, that we visually have all the players boxed in our eyesight. So we're using our peripheral vision as well as our direct line of sight. We're using our or what we like to say sometimes foreground or primary coverage area, or however you want to word it. We want to make sure that we boxing all players in. I don't care if we're going the full length of the court or if we're in a half court setting. Always want to be able to get all 10 players in our visual confines. So if it's me and Jeff and we're doing the 2-person, we're going to make sure that if I'm the trail and he's the lead, we still can see all 10 players, no matter where they go, no matter what they do. We got to visually be able to keep up with all 10 players. All right. Cadence whistle. Okay, another terminology that we're going to be using that you're going to hear a lot of throughout your officiating career. Okay, it's a delayed whistle that's usually blown a few seconds after there has been contact or a violation on a play, and the primary official does not have a whistle. Okay, so just think of a cadence whistle as a delayed whistle. Okay, that's really important. All right. Close down. Okay, you hear a lot of officials talking about make sure you close down on the shot. You know, if it's the trail, if it's the center, if it's the lead, or if it's 2-person just trailing lead, you'll hear that terminology close down. Okay, so movement of official, a step or two related to the movement of the ball. Okay, the trail closes down towards the end line. The lead closes down towards the nearest lane line extended. Okay, so again, if you visualize in the diagram, if you are the lead, if you are the lead and you see a shot going up to the basket, you're trying to close down towards, take a step or two towards that line extended, so that why you want to be able to see those players. Now, in some cases, you may have to bag out depending on where you are, depending on the play that's happening on the court. Okay, you may not have to close down. Sometimes you may have to take a step back, a step or two back, just so that you can widen your vision. Okay, but anyway, the point of it is typically whenever there's a shot going towards the basket, we are asking officials to take 1 or 2 steps to close down. So again, so that we can come in a little closer to get a better look on the play that's happening at the basket. Okay, dead ball officiating. Well, we know we got 2 options when the game is going on. Either the play is going to be live or the play is going to be dead. All right. Whichever one it is, we got to still have our antennas up. But when it's dead ball officiating, we really got to have our antennas up. Why? Because that's when sometimes players get to talking to each other. Somebody might, throw a cheap shot at another player, things like that. So we want to make sure that we keep the players safe. Make sure we officiate the game the proper way by making sure that we are paying very close attention in dead ball situations. So whenever the whistle blows, whenever that clock stops, they say when the ball is dead, we become alive. Okay, meaning that our attendance go up, we got to pay attention, because there's a lot of responsibilities that we have. You may have subs coming in at the table. You may have players, going past each other. One person may say something to another person, or may give them a cheap shot or whatever the case may be. We got to pay attention to that because there are rules that we have to address if there's dead ball situations. So we got to know those rules for live ball and for dead ball. All right. Double whistle. Okay. You're going to hear that terminology a lot as well. Double whistles, you have multiple, both officials or 2, maybe sometimes in a 3-person, maybe all 3 officials. Okay. Meaning that you have a whistle at the same time. Now, one thing that we really try not to do is have double whistles as much as possible, meaning that going back to the diagram, the court diagram, we want to focus on our primary coverage area. Okay. And we'll talk about a little bit later as far as which players are your primary, which players are your secondary, things like that. We'll get into that a little bit later tonight. But the whole point is to prevent double whistles from happening. We want to make sure that we trust our partners, making sure that we are calling in our primary area and let our partners call in their primary area to prevent the double whistles from happening. Okay. If at all possible. But if it's a bang bang play, a play that's really a hard foul or a flagrant foul or whatever the case may be, you may have to have a double whistle in a moment in a situation like that because the game can get heated and it can get out of control really fast. And that's something that we don't want to happen. All right. Jeff, you got anything you want to chime in on so far, or Gary?
I do, Clarence, on the double whistle. There is a technique that we use, especially in the 3-person game. On a double whistle, if we have contact in the paint or in the lane, and we have 2 whistles go off at one time, if you are the outside official, we are going to teach you to blow and hold. Do not point. Do not yell out a block or a charge. Make eye contact with the lead official that the play is going to. If you are the lead official and we have contact in the paint and a double whistle, once you figure out if you're the lead official, you're going to take that play because it's coming to you. We want you to own your primary. Now, again, earlier we said if the whistle comes from outside, you blow and hold on a double whistle to stay out of what we call a blarge situation, which is a block charge situation by 2 officials. One call from each official, and each one of them is different. Agree, Jeffrey? Clarence, you with me?
Yes, sir. The other thing I want to clarify about your primary and secondary coverage areas, the diagram that Clarence showed, when we say your primary, those colored areas, that is where the ball is located at the time. So it doesn't mean that just because the ball's in the trail area, the lead can only afford to just look at that really small area. And what I mean by that is there may not be what we call competitive matchups or things going on in your area. So it's really primarily, with the lack of a better term, that's where the ball's at. So if on the 3-person side, if the ball is in the green, that is the center's primary area in the center row. The reason I want to make that distinction because we have officials that will, especially when they transition to 3-person, and from 2-person, they will watch only their area as if there's nothing else going on. And the reason you want to not quite do that is because, especially in 2-person, and it's really more common in 2-person, players might all be in one area. I mean, it's potential that the trail or the ball could be in the leads area, and maybe 8, 7, 9 players are in that area. It doesn't mean that the trail just says, okay, all these players are in that area. I ain't got nothing else better to do. You might have to help out based off of angles to look at that. And it's kind of it's a fluid situation constantly. Like the ball moves and whatever. Another thing, and we probably will get into this a little later, is that your movement sometimes will help your partners know where you're looking at. So especially in 2-person, if that ball's in the about free throw line extended, you can point to that. I'm talking about in the 2-person. In free throw line extended, opposite the trail, that's let's say outside the 3-point line. That's what we call a trouble area, because it's a possibility that the lead and the trail could be looking at the ball. So one of the ways to help it out, especially if it's in your primary as a trail, is move out onto the court from off the sideline, and maybe kind of close to halfway, maybe around the circle, to look at that particular play. And once the ball moves, you can go back to your kind of original position or a more advantageous position to look at it. Also, the lead, because of the lead's positioning in that situation, if the ball's in the corner or a little below, they have to maybe adjust their eyes and their body to show that they're looking at it. Because once you pick up on this as their partner, then now you know, okay, they're on ball, I can worry about something else. So this is a constant fluid thing that happens. And it's not something you learn very quickly. It's something you got to work a lot of games. Because the problem is with a lot of the younger officials and newer officials, and I mean, it doesn't matter when I say younger, I'm not saying age, I'm saying younger as an experience as an official. A lot of times we are watching the ball because we have trained ourselves when we watch basketball games or watch any game on television. We watch the ball. The ball goes there, we watch it. That is the thing that we cannot do in basketball officiating. And actually, if you do other sports, it's kind of similar, because there's other sports that kind of say we cannot just follow the ball. We have to watch an area of responsibility. So we have to know those area responsibilities that we're looking at and help each other out.
Absolutely. Does anybody have any questions while we're at this point? Because I want this to be interactive. So if you have any questions, feel free to, like I said, put it in a chat or raise your hand, and we'll try to address your question along the way. All right.
Actually, guys, how you doing? This is Bill James. Good evening.
Go ahead. Good evening.
So, I know it's a fine line between, calling the plays that you see and then not officiating in outside of your primary. But like you guys were just saying, let's say the paint, let's say it's not an ISO play and you got everyone moving around, setting screens back and forth across the lane. I've done it, and I know that sometimes it's hard to see if the ball is on top and you're trying to look through all these bodies as the lead, and that's your primary. It's really kind of hard to see what's happening as the ball is coming down to you. And the trail may have the better angle. But at the same time, you don't want to be calling all the fouls in your secondary, right? So, like, I know it was a foul, and I know it wasn't flagrant. It was just a normal basketball foul, but I didn't call it because I didn't want to be constantly calling fouls in the leads primary. And so when the ball's transitioning, I got the basketball coaches yelling at me, "Yeah, that's a foul, that's a foul." I agree with him. I saw it. I didn't call it because that wasn't my primary. And it's not like I didn't want to do it. I just didn't want to be that partner that's like correcting or over officiating or not worrying about my primary, because I'm calling fouls in his primary. You guys kind of hear what I'm saying? My point
Bill,
is,
Bill, can I
where's that
interrupt you?
fine line? Like, you just got to do it. And I know you got to trust your partner, and I get it, but it's not always easy for him. And when you see it, you know, do you just call it because you see it? And I'm not worried about the double whistles. I get that. That's a problem. You don't want two whistles with two different fouls. I'm totally on board with that. But let's just say the lead just can't see or doesn't have the angle that you do. Do you call or not call? Because I'm agreeing with this with the coach that it was a foul, but it's like, yeah, damn it, I just don't want to be that guy.
Go ahead, Gary.
Bill, earlier you mentioned that you were working lead and you didn't want to be looking out at trail from the lead position.
Well,
Is
no,
that
what I
heard
meant
you?
was I've been lead, and I realize sometimes, like, while let's say the guy is just driving in through all that traffic, I might not have been able to see the contact that the trail would have been seeing from on top. So, like, I've been on both sides where I could have called it as a trail, and maybe I didn't see it as a lead because of all the bodies in the way. So it's
So
like
what we want
I
to do
get.
in that situation,
Yep.
Bill, is we want you from the lead position. We want you to work as wide as you possibly can in a three-person game. Clarence, if you would point to where we need to lead at on a dribble drive to the basket. We have trail on the sideline. Clarence, take trail and put it on sideline wide ball level. And now lead, what we want you to do is lead, Bill, is we want you to let plays come to you into your primary and not have you look out into someone else's primary from the lead position. You're not going to get a good look from lead all the way out into trails area. And if you do have a whistle on that situation, that whistle is going to be coming a long way away. See
No,
what
I'm
I'm
with you.
saying? Let the play come.
Most of my point though was being the trail calling fouls in the leads primary.
The trail.
Go ahead,
It was
Bill.
mostly, my whole point was mostly being the trail calling fouls in the leads primary. I get what you're saying. Maybe back away as a lead. That way you could see maybe more of your primary down low. But
Correct.
again, being a trail, and again, being that most of us are 1 to 5 years. My guess is we're not doing a lot of varsity. I know I'm not, and
But
most
that's
of our
okay.
most of our
That's
games are
okay.
2-person anyway.
Well, what I was going to say is that's why I said this is fluid, because this
Yep.
is not something that is so stagnant that there aren't situations. And I'm going to say this, and Gary, please chime in if I'm saying something different. The lane is a lot of times all officials are looking at the lane, partly because that's where all the players go. So even the defenders that are when the ball's in the lane, the other defenders that are coming from your primary or other places are coming to that place, especially if the ball stays there for just a short period of time. They're going to try to do what they can to defend it or to get the ball handler to pass the ball out of that area, because that's an easy scoring area. So it's about angles at that point. You have to now call things, or if you see things, call them. But what you want to do as an outside official, as Gary said, you don't want to be the first one that's on the crack of the whistle for that particular play, because it's very possible, if you don't see the whole thing and you're guessing, you could be calling something that maybe you don't get a good look at. Or if you know that your partner cannot see something, there are plays that need to be called by the outside officials. It's just the way it is. And and in 3-person, we've talked a lot in the last few years about plays at the rim. Plays at the rim, meaning at or above the rim, meaning we're in the backboard, or that's where the height is. And obviously this happens more in boys games, but believe me, it does happen in girls games. When they're plays at the rim, those are plays that are oftentimes better for the outside officials, because they have a better view, a clearer view of the play. For example, if we have the lead position, like where we're at, and there's a play on the opposite side or up above on the center side, which is technically in the green side, we used to be very common to have the lead blow their whistle on those plays. We now kind of don't want you to. Not if you are getting screened by the net, the rim, the backboard, which even if you're in a wide position will happen on plays. You want to be able to trust your partner that they are going to have an outside look at that play that might be better than yours. So even in your own primary, you have to know when sometimes those plays are not the best look for you, and you have to stay off of them. And another play is a curl play. So if we're on the lead side, and I think we talked about this last week, we're on the lead side and they're facing the lead or facing the sideline where the lead is, if the play curls to the middle of the lane, that oftentimes is a better look for the trail and or center.
Correct.
Because the trail and or center is probably going to see the front side or part of the front side of the play. Where the lead now, it might be completely in your primary, but it's a play that is really difficult for you to see. So what we want you to try to strive for is your primary, but we also want open looks. And if you don't have an open look on a play, I don't care where you are. Maybe this is a more advanced thing, but I wouldn't want to make a habit of calling a bunch of things on stuff I don't have an open look on. Now,
Sure.
Work hard to get an open look in your primary, but if it's somewhere where it's not, you might have to call that. Now, let me make this clear. This is not a foul. Like we have 20 fouls and a half, which is probably too many, but if we do, we don't want to have 10 of those fouls like that. This should be once or twice, probably in a half, and maybe sometimes once or twice in a game, depending on how the game is being played. So it's not something that we're saying don't ever do. We're just saying be judicious about it. And also understand when your partner has a better look in their primary and let them call the game. Now, if it's one of those situations where, oh my gosh, that's a foul, and no one's calling anything, and you're the outside official, more than happy, come in and get that foul. Because it's going to be, and especially in 3-person. Now, let me shift this briefly to 2-person. This is a lot harder in 2-person because
Absolutely.
you cannot take that completely attitude in 2-person the way you do in 3. You have a less sets of eyes. You have 2 set or 1 set of less eyes on those games. And now it's really about angles and it's really about situations. But what
And in
we
a
want,
two-person game, Jeff, and those angles and stuff, you are going to have to find yourself working a little bit further out on the floor in a two-person game
Absolutely.
to see those angles. Where in a 3-person game, we want everyone working as wide as possible or as wide as the ball allows. The location of the ball is going to determine where we're at as far as officiating position. So
yes. So it's we're, and the reason we're saying that we kind of want you to avoid double whistles because we want you to be aware that what your partner might see, and if they are seeing it, we don't want you to be the first one on the outside or the non-primary official calling something that maybe the primary official saw the whole play. Because believe it or not, if you watch enough film, there are plays that look like fouls from certain places and completely are not. And I'm not talking about at the high school level, the Division I level, the NBA. They get dinged on those things when they call stuff that is not their primary and they're guessing because there's a lot of times, and this actually happens a lot in the NCAA tournament, like for men's and women's. They sometimes get these calls that are coming from outside somewhere or away, and the official basically guessed, and then they sold a slow motion replay. The player tipped the ball or something else happened, and then they put a whistle on it. We just don't want to have a bunch of those kind of plays where we're putting whistles on plays that are completely wrong or that we're guessing. And it's okay. I know it sounds hard. It's okay to miss a couple plays. Like we're going to miss plays and miss them because I don't have an angle. That's a good one. Don't miss it because you have an angle. Miss it because, okay, I really can't see that. And I got to trust my partner.
All right.
So I
Thank you, guys.
hope that helps a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Great,
Okay.
great. So good. I'm glad we were able to answer your question. Again, if you guys got any questions, feel free to put it in the chat, or Jeff can let me know. We can talk about it, because we want you to feel comfortable and get questions answered, because again, we were once in your shoes and we understand that some of this stuff just is not really making sense just yet. So I need you to help me make sense to it. So that's why we're here, to help make sense to a lot of this stuff that, again, as a fan or as a coach or as a player, you see the game different than as an official. So this is why we're covering these different topics. All
And
right.
it's all about seeing plays, right,
And it's
Clarence?
all about seeing plays, which we're gonna
If
get
you
into.
don't have a game and you're sitting home in your living room watching University of Illinois and Wisconsin, you're just watching plays.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. So, Gary, since you're talking about that, can you talk about move to improve?
Talk about what, Clarence?
Move to improve. What does
Well,
that?
you have to move. The number one thing is we cannot officiate a good possession without having a correct angle. And the ball location is going to kind of help us in where we need to position ourselves. Again, our ideal positioning is stay wide, work wide, and stay wide. And if we don't have a good look, then we have to move. And especially at the trail and center positions where the sidelines come into play. Clarence, if you can go back to the 2 and 3 person court diagram.
Sure.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
Where we have the tee for the trail area, if the ball was at the head of the key, then I don't like the trail being out that far on the floor. I want the trail to be over here on the sideline, because you are creating a bigger angle of separation for a lot longer period of time. If the ball leaves the trail area and drives to the basket into the lead area, we would like the trail to come right down the sideline, staying wide, and being able to see that angle of separation for a lot longer period of time. So if you don't have a good look where you're at, you have to move and you have to find a good look. Now, I was going to say this, but that would have been interrupting Jeff for about the third time, and I apologize, Jeff. But if we go to the free throw line, Clarence, if you can move this arrow down here to on the 3 person court here.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Come down a little bit lower underneath the free throw line. Now, I know that Clarence and Jeff and Gary, we all 3 have been guilty of being a whistle, 3 whistles going off in this area for whatever reason. That cannot happen, because if we have 3 sets of eyes on a play right there in the middle of the paint underneath the free throw line, who is officiating the other players in other areas of the floor? No one. So let me just tell you this. Remember this terminology, ball awareness. Ball awareness versus ball watching. So if the ball would move over between the lead and the tee, there we go. Now, who is the center officiating from the center position? Does the center reach all the way across the paint and help out lead and tee in officiating, or does he officiate the competitive matchup that he has in his area that may only have a total of 2, possibly 3 players in his primary? We want you to officiate those 2 or 3 people on a contested matchup in your primary, rather than you stretching all the way across the lane area into lead and tee primaries. So does that make sense, guys? You with me there?
Absolutely. And it
So
goes back to whistle discipline too.
It does, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a message. If the trail moves toward the basket with the ball, how do you avoid avoid getting beat on the fast break, I think?
Yes, going the other way. Yeah.
First of all, let me say this about that question. Great question, and that's everybody's fear.
Mm-hmm.
We are always going to get beat going down to the other end of the floor, as long as these kids stay 16 and 17 and we're 45 and 50 years old. We're going to get beat at times. If we get beat, so what? I don't care. You are more valuable to your two official partner if from the trail position, if the trail comes down and helps rebound and helps on shot attempts, you're more valuable helping them out at lead and center. That lead and center need you to help them trail. Trail has to stay engaged. And as soon as the defensive rebound is done and possessed, that's when you break and release going down the other end to become the new lead. And it's not a walk or a lollygag down the floor. Get down there to the end line, set up and let that play come to you. You want to be in position to let that play come to you all the way down to the end line. Thank you, Clarence. Great.
Absolutely. Great questions, guys. These are the things that I call the intangibles to officiating. You know, that all of these things that we're sharing, in general, they're in the rule book or the officials manual, what have you, but there's some little nuances that we consider like the gray area that, you know, we have to discuss, we have to talk about and help train you guys to understand what to look for, what not to look for, you know, when to move, how to move, you know, those types of things. So that's why we're having this dialogue, because we really want you to grasp, if you grasp what we're talking about, and we know it's going to take time, it's going to take, you know, repetition, you know, game after game after game after game. But once you get it, it's going to make sense to you. Okay. And it's going to help your officiating skills get so much better. All right. So, Jeff, if you can, real quick, can you talk about preventative officiating? Just touch on that real quick.
Yes. Basically what this means is if we can, we want to try to prevent players from doing things that are borderline. Now, when I say borderline, I'm not saying we ignore obvious fouls, obvious violations, obvious things that are against the rules. But there's always a time in games where they're borderline. And I'll give a good example of this. When you are throwing in the ball or you're about to hand the ball to the shooter, one of the things I always say to the defender if they're guarding them is make sure you don't cross the line. It's just a reminder to just tell them they may not be crossing the line, but I don't want them to now all of a sudden think that they can crowd the line or they can be across the line. It's a habit. It's something I say almost every time on a close defender. I might even say to a free throw or during a free throw, make sure you don't put your arm across or stay in your lane or stay in your space. It's just a reminder to players. Sometimes you just have to remind them to be like, because they start off doing something kind of illegal. And then if we let play continue or we let play go on, they may be illegal. So I'm just going to be a reminder. So there's many examples of this. This is not just one. I'm just giving two obvious examples that I might do every time. But if we can prevent players from doing stuff or prevent even coaches from doing stuff, it makes our life easier if we now have to engage and then make a call. So if we say something to a coach about the coaches on the coaching box and they're kind of out a little bit, but we kind of get them back. If they eventually come and interfere with somebody or they do something, we at least told them. They were warned. That's obvious. But that doesn't mean ignore situations that are obvious. If they're, I'll even say this. This is something I do when it comes to players during live play. I say hands, hands, hands with the whistle in my mouth. The reason I say that is I want to remind players that if you start putting your hands on them, now you're suspect. And I will say it when their hands are not even out. And the reason I do that, I want them to hear me. And then if I call it, I done told you so. But that's what the situation is, and usually prevents it from being something I got to call multiple times. So that's kind of examples of preventive officiating. Dead ball officiating, we do a lot of preventive officiating when it comes to players maybe engaging during dead balls, taunting each other. There are times when if we can get to a player and just say, hey, man, I need you to knock that off. Or I need you to, hey, don't put me in a situation I got to do something with this. But I'm just telling you so that you know that if I'm watching what you're doing or watching what's going on, I don't want to have to put you out of the game because of this. And if you do that most of the time, coaches and players that have sense will enact. But if they choose to ignore you and they just do the stuff anyway, that's what your whistle's for. But it is not to be used the entire game. It is not to be used from the. It might be we might start off a little early, and then we may have to pull back on that and maybe start blowing our whistle because they're either not listening or they're not aware of what they're doing. But preventive officiating is a tool that the more you work, the more you do this, the more you'll realize when those opportunities are. And everybody has a different style of it too, and what you say. And I'm in sales, so I tell people all the time. In sales, we have scripts that when we talk to customers, we say the same things, and what eventually ends up happening, you become to your own terminology. You know what to say. You just know that you need to address these things. Well, that's the same way in officiating. If you have things that you say constantly or say all the time, sometimes over time, you will develop things that you say to players, and some of them will work, some of them won't. It doesn't mean they're always going to work. Like in sales, we always don't get to sale because I follow the script. But I have some idea of what I'm going to say in specific situations, and some of them you're going to steal from other officials, and some of them you're going to develop over time because you're in the right spot. And it's going to vary by level too, because I say different things to a high school coach that I say to a college coach. I say different things to a junior high coach player than I say to a high school player because there's age differences and things of that nature. So use this to your advantage when you can. But again, if they don't listen to you, or better yet, if they just come out and flagrantly violate the rules, blow your whistle and do everything that you need to do. But just be aware, we can sometimes say things to at least let them know we're watching and that they're paying attention to us.
Jeff, if I may add to that, preventive officiating, if you can take a player off of each team, probably a captain off each team, they're a captain for a reason. You can get those two captains on your side when it comes time for discussion and say, 25, you're my captain. I want 15 to take his hands off and keep his hands off. He's impeding the dribble. He's going to hear a whistle. Can you help me with that? And you know what? That helps out sometimes when the player goes over, hey, John, the official is trying to get your attention. Just do what he's asking. Or the whistle will put him on the bench maybe in the first half early. Who knows? But you can take a player and have him actually help you do preventive officiating in some cases.
Absolutely. Great information. So primary and secondary defender, another terminology you'll hear a lot in what we do. Obviously, the primary defender is typically the person that's playing defense on the ball. Secondary defender is usually a teammate of the defender that's not on the ball, but near the ball, or may step up to help their primary defender who may have gotten beat off of a dribble. So you'll hear that terminology a lot, primary defender versus secondary defender. And a lot of times when we showing plays, we'll talk about that and you'll hear the terminology primary defender, secondary defender. All right. Rotation, again, if you're in 3-person, you'll definitely hear that a lot in 3-person mechanics. When it's 3 persons working a game, rotation, which is usually led by the lead, I'll say 99% of the time. The center sometimes can initiate the rotation if there's ball pressure near the half court line and they have to step up and it's in their primary area and they have to step up to officiate that play. But typically most rotations will come from the lead position. I would say probably 99% of the time, which is again is in 3-person mechanics. All right.
And ball location is key, Clarence, right?
Ball is very key. It's very key. Selling the call. Now this goes kind of to what Jeff was talking about as far as communicating and selling the call is just what it is. It's making sure that your call looks convincing. It looks like you know what you're calling and your call matches the play that you just saw. So sometimes that means you may have a louder voice or a louder whistle, more aggressive whistle, as they say. Your body language is definitely important in selling a call. Okay, you don't want to be sitting up there saying beep. That doesn't look like you're selling a call. But if I go, okay, I look like I'm sure about the call that I made or that I'm making. So you want to be able to sell your calls when you're out there. Start, develop, finish. Again, seeing the play at the beginning, the middle, and the end. What happened in the beginning? What happened in the middle? What happened in the end? This is what you're gonna hear another terminology: start, develop, finish. Okay. Secondary coverage area, SCA. Okay, we talked about primary coverage area. Now we're going to be talking about secondary coverage area. Okay, it refers to an area that's not the official's primary coverage area, but near the primary coverage area. And you're actually saying, hey, okay, if the ball is over here and this is the primary A1, B1, and this is my secondary coverage A2, B2, that's my secondary coverage area, because those individuals are not, A1 has the ball over here, and A1, I'm sorry, B2, A1, A2 and B2. I'm sorry, I'm getting my numbers and letters mixed up here. But A2, B2, they're in your primary, secondary, your secondary coverage area. So we'll show some plays again, talking about that. Straight line, again, we talk about being straight line, meaning that we don't want to have offense here, or I should say defense here, offense here, and we're standing behind and we're trying to look through bodies. Well, obviously we can't look through bodies. Okay, but if we have defense and offense this way, now if I'm the official, now I can officiate this play, because now I can see if the defense does anything to the offense or if the offense does anything to the defense. But if you're straight line, that means you have to go back to what we talked about when we said move to improve. Now you have to get an angle to say, okay, now I got to come around and be able to see between offense and defense. Okay, or you have to go this way depending on what, the ball movement or whatever's going on the floor of the game. But the point is, you have to move to improve to get the best angle to officiate that play. Okay.
Clarence, if I may add to that,
Go ahead.
if you are straight lined behind a defender and a ball handler, you cannot see the separation or the angle of separation between the two. You have to move down the sideline to get that angle to open up for you, so you get a better look at the point of contact that's being made. So
Absolutely.
very important not to get yourself in a straight line position.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Clarence, let's
Yeah.
answer a few questions. I don't want us to get
Go
too
ahead.
far down the
Oh,
road.
go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, definitely. Let's answer the questions.
I think we answered most of the other ones, and if I didn't, please stop me, somebody, and say, well, can you explain the specific roles of R, U1, and U2?
Go ahead. Jeff, you want to take it?
Well, basically, they're just classifications, probably where you start on the floor. If it's just that classification for that purpose, the referee is usually the official who tosses the ball. The U1 is usually table side, to the left of the referee who is facing the table. The U2 is on the opposite side of the court, and has other responsibilities. Just in general, U1 chops the clock. The referee obviously tosses the ball, can have some responsibilities, but oftentimes should not have their whistle in their mouth, that should not know or shouldn't be able to rule on something really quickly. And U2 kind of watches all the other players on the outside to see what happens. But you still have to work in conjunction. Where this also might be used is in a assigning process. Some assigners assign the referee the U1 and the U2. And sometimes it means the seniority of the crew from maybe how the assigner sees that particular game. But once that ball's tipped up, you have all the responsibility. The referee does all the administrative things like the pregame with the table, the coaches and captains meeting. They're the one who mainly talks. They do all the book stuff. They're the primary on that information. And so if it's assigned, that's what it was done. But if you don't have it assigned, then you have to decide as a crew who's going to be U1 and U2. But that's the general things of that. Then it
Here's
also.
my opinion. Here's my opinion on that, Jeff.
Go ahead.
And a great explanation before game. Everything you said before game applies. That's great. My opinion is after the game starts and the ball is tossed up, all three of you become an R on the game. So that's just my opinion.
I
There
agree.
is no RU1, U2 any longer, in my opinion. All three of you are just important as your partners. You're all three
and
R's.
I'm going to say this to guys: if you want to be the best official, you want to be like the R on the game. If you're actually not assigned it, or if you're not one in the game, don't refer to the R, which does have some rules, responsibilities, as the one who's going to make all the complicated decisions. The referee might have some administrative, but if I'm a referee and I'm assigned that, I still, or I'm not assigned it, I want to make sure that I give input the same way. So don't default to the referee as the one. Sometimes it's the most experienced official by assignment, or the one that the assigner might have the most trust in. They might even have to fill out a report in some cases. That varies where you live, but don't default to that. Be a referee. I'll say this, another thing: most assigners are looking for referees, are not looking for U1s and U2s. You might hear that term a lot. And that just
We got
means
plenty of them, right?
right. We were looking for people that can run the game regardless of what your position is. So don't let that be a default. So I hope that answers that question. Let me go on to a couple other questions. This was for Gary. Gary, when do you feel the best time to chat with the captains during the game? I mean, maybe you answered that, but you want to address that real quick?
I think that question was from Bill. Is that correct, Bill?
Yes. It was
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt when Clarence started moving on, but you had briefly talked about, hey, not only you kind of preventative reffing by talking to the guys during the game, but like you said, that was a great suggestion by talking to the captains. I just kind of want to, like,
Any
you just
dead
running
ball
up and down the
situ-
court with them, kind of chat with them, or a
Well,
time like
I've done that many times. If I'm running up the floor right next to the player that I can talk to get the help, I'll just say, hey, 25, don't look at me, just listen to me. Can you help me with 15 right away? He's about to get himself in trouble. Next dead ball, you're going to see 25 run over to 15 and take care of it for you.
Got it.
Any dead ball situation, Bill, is a good time to have a conversation, a short conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
ignore comments, but listen to questions, okay?
Awesome. Thank you.
And then the last question, last comment: selling a call can be important for basketball first goaltending. Let me say this about selling a call. You don't want to do this on most calls. You really want to save this for the situations where it's a 50-50 play at best. I'm speaking as someone who probably sold more calls than I needed to early in my career, and now I barely have to sell a call. You want to reserve, and selling a call can be somewhat demonstrative. It can be very laid back, but you don't want to get in the habit of where you have to sell every type of call. And just because of the basket interference or goaltending, sometimes those call themselves. They're really easy to call, and so they're just if they're just so easy, boom, count the basket, nope, wave off the basket. You don't have to be demonstrative about a lot of calls. There are times you have to do it, but I would say this: watch film, watch other officials. You'll kind of know when that needs to happen and develop that.
Not every call is a big call, right?
No. And some of them, even in the closest situations, are sometimes the easiest call. I mean, I have seen myself on film a lot lately, and sometimes when I got a call that's really, really simple, or, and it might be in the biggest moment of the game, I'm very calm and look very matter of fact because everybody saw that was the call. So, you don't have to sell a lot of calls. Don't make that a habit. Try to get out of that habit. And that's why you got to continually practice and work on your mechanics so that your demeanor, and I mean everything, your facial expression, your arm movement, whatever. There's a time to be a little more demonstrative, and there's a time, most of the time, we need to just be kind of stay here. And actually, if you wouldn't watch officiating, like you watch old officiating games in the NBA or college, they were very demonstrative on a lot of calls. And now that kind of is not the thing anymore. And I mean across sports, because they used to really sell, like, even though you watch an umpire now in baseball, they used to kind of like, and they used to do that. Now you just say, nope, he's out. you know, that's kind of what we want.
So everyone Jeff is really saying stay underneath the radar as much as possible.
Absolutely.
Don't bring unwanted attention to yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then I guess then another question about that was, is there a signal for two different plays specifically? Johnny, I'm assuming you mean for basket interference and goaltending. If you can unmute yourself just so I understand what you're asking. Well, if that's what you're asking, if there are two different signals for basket for goaltending, no, it's either count the basket or wave it off. That's what it basically means. It's just you're going to wave it off, no basket, or count the basket and 2 or 3, and you're going to tell the table that it's those. Now, say it's basket interference versus goaltending. Say it's basket interference, count the basket, or basket interference, no basket. Use your voice, but there's no specific signal. And then kind of one other like AJ, you might want to ask that question out loud, AJ, so I don't want to miss.
Yeah, I was at a more high level training, and the person who was going over scenarios talked about a situation where he was a longtime coach, new official, but was doing some training locally here in Central Illinois, and he made the comment that if an offensive player dribbles the ball into the front court, so you've established that you are in the front court, can't go in the back court. When if a defensive player were to hit the ball off of, say, the offensive player's leg, so the defensive player never possessed the ball, just essentially just hit it back into the back court. When the offensive player is the first to touch the ball, that is a backcourt violation, and that just seemed weird to me.
It's a last touch, first touch situation, Jeff.
Right. It basically, when it's kind of addresses what I was talking about at the very first meeting was status. There's a thing called team control that applies to backcourt violations. Anytime a team is in team control, there's several. The only way it can change is either the ball becomes dead, there's a violation, or a foul, or something that makes the ball dead, or it becomes dead by rule, like a timeout or something like that. But if I am the last person to touch the ball from the team in control, which is usually team A in the front court, and then I'm the first person to touch it, regardless of whether the defense played on the ball or whatever, it is considered a backcourt violation by rule in high school basketball. Other levels might be different, so take that as you may, but in high school, it's clearly last touch, and you will have coaches who will say, well, they touched it. That has nothing to do with it. It's a completely different rule, and actually was the rule at other levels for a long time too. They've changed it over the last several years, but in high school, we have kept that rule.
So in two situations, you have different outcomes. That say the team A comes into the front court, team B on defense hits the ball into the backcourt without touching team A, and then team A goes back and gets it. That's not a backcourt violation, but
not a backcourt violation.
Right? But if team B hits the ball off of team A, say knee, and it goes in the backcourt, and team A touches it, then it is a backcourt violation.
That is correct.
It would be because, and so you understand it, it's because team control never changed. So if B never possessed the ball and the ball went off of A before it went into backcourt and they were the first ones to touch it, then it is a backcourt violation under National Federation rule. Again,
but if team B did take control of the ball and then it does hit team A's player and goes into the backcourt, team A can go retrieve it, and it's not a backcourt violation at that point.
Yes, but they're not the team in control.
Correct.
So we want you to understand that it's a team control issue. If I take possession of it, now team control sweats. So then the backcourt front court dynamic changes where you are on the court. So it's a difficult rule to explain,
especially in real time.
In real time, because it might be a slight touch. But I would say this, if you see that and you know it, call it, because again, we have tape, and if somebody shows that play to somebody, because there are coaches who know the rule too, but a lot of times you will get crap because coaches will be up in arms thinking that's not right. Well, and then you can, and one of my scripts that I say, coach, this is a high school only rule. I don't make the rules. And that usually kind of gets you out of that conversation, because then they understand, or they at least have to somewhat accept that it might be different as opposed to other levels. Other levels is different. I say that because you will have somebody who will reference a college or NBA game and think that it applies, and it doesn't. So you have to be aware of that.
And the reason I ask is because it's very visible. Like, it's not like a over the back call or something that might be a bunch of bodies jumping around. You're at the half court line. Everyone's looking at the ball anyway. I mean, it's very apparent and notorious, and you can get it wrong very quickly and very easily, apparently. So.
Oh, you can get it wrong, and there will be people on the internet. This is one thing we talk about.
They'll let you know.
Everybody has a phone. I swear to God, we had somebody in our area who made the absolute right call, and it was all over Twitter that they screwed it up. At least that was the talk, and it had to be several officials that obviously came into the chat and said, "No, guys, that's the rule." So it's a controversial play. It's the rule that we have right now. Maybe one of these days they'll change it, but right now that's our rule. I'm going to call it every time I see it, because I think if you call it enough, maybe they'll decide the rule needs to be changed or on some level. But at the other levels, it's totally different. So just them touching the ball or the defense playing on the ball does not change the status of the ball unless they have possession of the ball. So that's the thing you want to know. Team control, last one to touch in the front court, first one to touch in the back court. It's always a violation.
Some really good stuff, guys. Keep it coming. Keep it coming.
Questions. Great
Great
questions.
It's a very good question.
Yeah,
Can I ask a question on that?
sure. Go ahead.
Yes.
So you're saying Team A goes through the front court and Team B tips it off of Team A and goes into the back court. So Team A cannot go back and touch it, otherwise it'd be a back court violation. So only Team B can grab the ball, which they become in control. So they only can play. Team A becomes on defense. Or is it become like a loose ball foul, like a loose ball where everybody goes for the ball?
Because
Because once they tip it, it becomes like it bounces off of him. It's kind of like a loose ball and nobody has possession anymore.
No, team control can only change when the team has possession, there's a violation, a foul, or a try where they would not have possession, or the play becomes dead by rule, usually a timeout or an out of bounds or something that's related to, or we stop play for an official timeout or something's going on. The team possession does not change because the ball's tipped.
If Team B tips it off of Team A and it goes into the back court, no one else could touch it but Team B.
No, Team A still has team control by rule, and which means
no, because if they touch it, it'll be a backcourt violation.
It's not based on the touch. It's based on the team.
It's not based on a touch.
Right.
You've got a possession means I have. Go ahead, correct.
No, so what we have to understand is, and this is what we were saying earlier about, you got to transition your mind shift from watching the game now to officiating the game, because the rule says it's based on possession of the ball. The ball can get touched. Well, perfect example. It could be the same play that you're talking about. The ball can get deflected off of a leg, off of a hand, off of a body. It's just because the ball's deflected off of multiple people, it's still not possessed by anybody. It's not in possession. It's not team control. Once someone gains control of the ball, now it's in team control. So the rule is based off of team control, not off of the tip or the touch. So that's what I'm saying. You got to change your mindset and say, okay, this is no longer me watching the game. Now I have to enforce what the rules are. And let me just say this too. Let me just say this too. Sometimes we as officials, personally, we don't always agree with the rules, but we have to enforce the rules. Okay.
No, but I'm confused because
I got a question on that real quick.
Okay, hold on, Daryl. Let's answer Tariq's question. Go ahead.
Because I'm going off what my buddy that he was asking about the question. So when Team A brought the ball forward to the front court, and Team B tips it and it hits off a knee of Team A and it goes into the backcourt. So now Team A, if he touches it, it'll be a backcourt violation, correct?
No, it will not. It
That's
will
what
not.
you guys. That's what you guys just said. It will be a
No, no,
violation.
no, no. We said just because it touched Team A, and B deflects it off of Team A's leg. I think that was the original question. If the ball is deflected off of Team A's leg and it goes in the backcourt, can Team A possess the ball? By rule, yes, Team A can possess the ball because the ball was still in the possession of Team A.
But it'll be a backcourt violation. That's what they said. That's what Jeff said.
If team control did not change, yes, it would be a
Yes.
backcourt
Right.
violation.
Right.
And
So
that's
that's what I'm saying.
and that's the key.
Right. So hold on one second. So if Team A goes back and grabs it, that's a backcourt violation.
In that,
So
yes,
the
in
only
that case,
the only players could grab it is Team B, correct?
in the backcourt, yes,
Because now it becomes their front court.
because Team A had possession of the ball in the front court, so they can't
Right.
touch the ball in the backcourt. Yes, in that case, yes, that's correct.
Okay. So at what point do we know if it's like a loose ball, which is anybody's ball, because nobody has possession? Because if it deflects off of him, it could just like be anywhere, and everybody could just jump for the ball.
And
Like,
let
we
me
no
let me
longer
say
know-
this. Let me say this because you used this term a couple times. You said it's a loose ball. We have no such thing in our rules called a loose ball. Believe it or not, there's no such thing. It's control or it's player control or team control. Team control
okay.
consists of players passing the ball between each other. So as I'm passing from like me and Clarence on the same team, and I from one part of the court pass it to Clarence, I am in team control still while that ball is in the air before it gets to Clarence or before it touches Clarence. So
Thank you for clearing that up.
Right. So team control does not change until those things that I said, but the thing that is the glaring change is obviously I have to have possession, meaning Team B has to
Got
get
it.
possession.
Got it.
Or if I'm shooting the ball, which has happened, and this is confuses people, and once I have released the ball on a try, team control ceases to exist. So during that loose ball, which is really technically not our term, there is no team control. So this part of the rule would not apply. One other thing I want to make clear is because there is what we call team control during a throw-in. During a throw-in, there is team control, but it's for foul purposes. This rule does not, for the backcourt, does not apply until I have team control in the front court, which means I've established control in the front court. Then the ball goes to the backcourt, then that's where that rule applies. But if I'm throwing the ball and I'm technically out of bounds, by the way, you are not in the front court or backcourt during a throw-in. From the thrower standpoint, you are out of bounds. So it doesn't apply. So the ball could be tipped around before possession. That rule would not apply the same way. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And this is a difficult rule, guys.
Yeah, no matter how long the ball is like in the air and it gets bounced off, the last person that has possession, the team that they control their possession until the possession changes. So the other team has full control. Makes sense.
One thing that comes up maybe, and maybe makes it more confusing, is say there's a sort of they come across half court and they're trapped, and there's a
your speaker is your mic is kind of making a lot of noise.
Yeah, we're not hearing you well.
There we go. There we go.
Try it again.
Is it still messing up?
Okay, that's better.
We hear you better.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just going to say I typically would see this as a player anyways, coming across half court and being trapped and multiple players grabbing for the ball and the ball gets tossed up in the air. I mean, at that point, to your point about there's team control with Team A coming across half court and being trapped. Depending on who hit the ball in the backcourt, I guess if it didn't go off Team A, maybe the Team A could grab it. But otherwise, Team A, I mean, if it was hit off, again, same thing. Jump. So two people going for the ball, gets hit off. Team A dribbles in the backcourt. Team A can't get it, or they can get it, and there'll be a backcourt violation, basically.
I believe so. I'm sorry, I'm trying to look for a play just to kind of illustrate this.
Yeah, sorry to derail the thing. I just it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a play that will illustrate this, but we can move on, and when I find it, I'll show what I'm talking about.
Well,
Bryce, are
thank
you
you
still
guys. I
there?
appreciate it.
No problem. Great question, AJ. Great question. I mean, great comment. Bryce?
Yeah, you guys are saying that there's no such thing as a loose ball, but I've seen in tournaments, being around basketball for 12 years before I got into officiating, where they'll tell a team they can't call a timeout because it's a loose ball. They have no possession. Is that accurate?
So when we say there's no loose ball, we mean by the rule book, there's no terminology called loose ball in high school.
So they would have to have possession to call the timeout. They would have to actually have it in their hands to call the timeout.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
you have to have player possession.
Player
to call a
possession
timeout.
has to be established. So, and that's a great question, because what happens, and this was a point of emphasis a few years ago, a couple of years ago, the Federation kind of made this a point of emphasis, because what they noticed across the country, there were a lot of officials in what you just called a loose ball play, and players going for the ball and people just yelling timeout, and officials were granting timeouts, but no one had possession. So they changed that rule. The emphasis, well, I shouldn't say change it. They just enforced it to say, hey, officials, you guys got to make sure that the player has possession before a timeout is granted. Okay, because what we don't want to do is grant a timeout and no one has possession. Now, technically, that's really not right, because if no one has possession, how you gonna give them a timeout? You see what I'm saying?
And specifically player possession.
Player possession has to be
is
established.
different than team possession. It's just like
Right.
where we could have team control foul and a player control foul. They are almost two sides of the same coin, but they mean different things. Because
Exactly.
player possession means I am a player who's holding and or dribbling the basketball at the
Right.
same. That is what that is. Team control means my team is in control. So if I'm passing the ball amongst teammates, we are in control, even though the ball's not personally in our possession. The only
Right.
way we can grant a timeout is I have to be in player possession. So
Player
if I have an
possession.
interrupted dribble or some other things, that changes the status of that play, and then I cannot call a timeout. Or if I'm in team control, there's other things that can be called. I call 3 seconds. I can, there's some other things that can happen, because team control is considered differently than player control.
After a player scores a basket, what team is it? The person who scored the basket that is in control of the ball that can call a timeout, because they call a timeout after you score a basket.
Well, when the ball is dead, anybody can call.
Oh, okay. Okay, ball's dead. Yeah.
So whenever the ball goes through the basket, and anytime ball goes through the basket, or when the play is dead, anybody can call a timeout. Team A or team B can call a timeout at that point. Okay?
Perfect. I got it.
And always
as long as the
remember
ball's not in the disposal of the new team.
right.
And disposal does not mean I have the ball on my hands. The disposal means I have access to the basketball. So if I have access to the basketball, that's the time when only the team in just possession of the ball at that particular time, I guess team control, because they are in team control at that time, they are the only ones that can call that timeout. So, but it's a brief period of time. And I say that because it can be quick, where the ball going through the basket, they might catch it right out the basket and go and be going. The other team cannot call timeout at that moment.
Or going back to what Bryce, you were asking about, you were saying loose ball, but like say if the ball's kind of just rolling on the floor and the teams are trying to get possession, but no one really has possession. Sometimes the coaches might be saying timeout, timeout, timeout. You can't grant that coach a timeout until their team has possession of the ball. If they don't have possession of the ball, you cannot grant that coach a timeout. And sometimes, depending on how the play happens, you may not, the coach may be yelling timeout, timeout, and you may hear that coach asking for a timeout. But remember, by rule, you can't grant the timeout until their team gets possession of the ball. Okay, you got to remember that, because what will happen is your emotions and your blood pressure will get high because of the momentum of the game and the excitement of the game. And you might hear somebody saying timeout, timeout. You be like, beep, timeout. And then you're like, oh, shoot, they didn't have possession of the ball. You know, so that's why we say be patient, relax, take your time, make sure they have possession of the ball, beep, timeout, white or blue or whatever the color is, and then you can grant them the timeout. Okay.
So the only timeout that can be granted for a ball that is bounced off of player A, as you were saying, and it's still considered in the possession, the ball's still rolling down the court. And the only timeout that can be granted there would be an official's timeout for injury type of thing, not a team calling timeout.
Say that again, Bryce.
Yeah, say it one more time.
So if in the case of like the backcourt, the player B hits off of player A, but the ball's still rolling down the court in the backcourt, the only timeout that can be granted would be an official's timeout, not the coach's timeout, correct?
We would not be able to grant the coach's timeout because no one has player control or player possession of the ball, correct? An official would not grant a timeout in any situation like that.
The only way they would be able to do it is if somebody got hurt, correct? Or an official timeout was called for any.
If somebody is badly injured enough, we always have the authority to grant a timeout for injury only in that situation. But you want to really look that through all the way, start, develop, and finish before you grant that timeout. You find something here, Jeff?
Yes, I did.
Jeff, did you optimize?
Yes, I did. That time. Okay, this is a play. This is kind of what we're talking about. Now, the point is in this video is not whether it hit the white player or not, but if it did, this is kind of what we're talking about. So if you can see this 21 right here is being guarded by a red player, and he hits the ball. Now, it appears it got dribbled off of the leg of the red player. But if it touched the white player, ricocheted and touched the white player before crossing the division line or going into the backcourt, this is a backcourt violation. It doesn't matter how adamant the coach thinks that he's wrong. He is right if he has it where it touches the leg. And this is sometimes how a lot of these violations are. And this is when we get an argument. But if it went off of 21's leg in the front court and goes to the back court, this is a violation. And again, the official has a much better angle at this than we do. I'm not 100% sure that happened, but it doesn't matter whether we think it happened. This is the basis of the rule. And you obviously are hearing or seeing the coach just lose their minds over it because they think he got it wrong. But if that is what happened, that's a violation every day, twice on Sunday. Any questions about that? And again, guys, this is a contentious play. I'm saying this because you are going to have this discussion when you make these calls. This is one of these calls that almost every single time brings up a debate. And usually the first thing that comes out of their mouth is, well, he went off the leg of the defender or he touched it. That's great, but that ain't our rule. That's not what our rule's based off of.
95% of all the people in the gymnasium does not know that rule.
Exactly.
And speaking of which, Jeff, let me share my screen real quick.
Okay.
And I just want to share this with you guys so that you can see this is the actual rule.
There you go. It is Rule 4. Yes.
Rule 4, Section 12 talks about control for player and team. Okay. So it says Article 1, a player is in control of the ball when the player is holding or dribbling the ball. There is no player control when during a jump ball, a jumper catches the ball prior to touching the floor, or a non-jumper, or during an interrupted dribble. Article 2, a team is in control of the ball when a player of the team is in control. B, while the ball is live being passed among teammates. C, during an interrupted dribble. D, when a player of the team has disposal of the ball for a throw-in. And then it has a note for E. Team control during a throw-in only applies to fouls committed by the offense. The 3-second and backcourt violation rules are not in effect when a team is in control of the ball for a throw-in. Once the throw-in ends, team control is established when player control is gained on the court. Okay.
And the play that I showed, just so we're clear, was an interrupted dribble.
Right.
So that technically what it is. He lost control of the dribble. It's considered by rule interrupted dribble. So if he's touching it, control never changed, meaning the white player in that case, it never changed. So he is still in team control. So if he's the last one to touch it and the first one to touch it, team control never changed. Go on, Clarence.
Clarence and Jeff.
Go ahead.
Question for Clarence and Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Would you agree that Rule 4 definitions is the most
Yes.
important rule in the game of basketball?
Yes. You need to study Rule 4.
Yes.
Yes.
I would strongly suggest that all of the officials that are on this call, as soon as they get off tonight or tomorrow or the first opportunity, you need to get in the rule book, look at everything in Rule 4. You need to get in the case book and look at everything in Rule 4. That's your meat and potatoes of the whole game.
So it goes back to what I was saying earlier about understanding the language. You know, every occupation has a language. Well, this is the definitions of our language. This explains everything: basket interference, continuous motion, team control, player control, verticality, block charge. This is the definitions of everything and the rules and guidelines to everything that we officiate. So if you can master Rule 4, everything else will make a lot more sense to you when you're out here officiating games. And you'll know how to communicate properly to coaches, which is very important, because guess what? Like Gary said before, Jeff said this before, most of the coaches don't know the rules. Some do, but most don't. You know, so that way, if you can use the proper language and you know what you're calling and you can back it up with what the rule is saying, now you look confident. You look like you know what you're doing out there. And that's what we want. And that goes along with what we were talking about a few minutes ago about being the referee on the game. Okay. That shows your signers that, hey, you know the rules, you know how to manage the game, you know how to keep things under control. All of those things add up to being a good referee. That's what assigners are looking for. Okay. That's what coaches and teams are looking for. They're looking for people out there that know the rules. Yeah, they may not like the fact that you call something against their team, but if you can back it up with the rule, they have no choice but to agree with it. Okay.
And another reason why you use the rule book language, because if that play happens that I showed, I say, Coach, team control never changed. The one thing that may happen, that coach may call the assigner and say, he told me team control never changed, but it went off of the leg of the other player. You just made a friend by an assigner, and I know Gary and Clarence can attest to this because they're assigners. So if somebody told them that, they can easily back you up. But if you say something else that isn't rule book language, they may be confused about what you meant. So that's why I almost implore you to use as much rule book language as you possibly can in discussions, because a lot of times the coaches don't understand what the word is that you're using. They're thinking of it in other terms. Well, it's a loose ball. Well, loose ball, and this is another reason why you need to learn other rules from other levels, meaning be familiar with them. Loose ball is used in other levels and has different meaning. And it doesn't necessarily even apply to this situation. It applies to other situations. So they may use that thinking it applies to what we're doing, and it actually doesn't. It doesn't apply at all. So that's why you got to know your rule books and know Rule 4 is much inside and out.
The best two words you can use to a coach is by rule. And when you say by rule to a coach, they know you know what the heck you're talking about. And a lot of times they'll just go sit down.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I know you guys talked about this too long, and I apologize if I'm just like keep asking the same question. I fully understand the team control. So just you're in a scenario, just want to know the difference. If team A brings the ball to front court and team B tips it off a knee of team A, and it goes into the backcourt and team A gets it, that's a backcourt violation because the possession never changed, correct?
Team control did not change.
Right. Yes. So what happened if the same scenario, team B, like almost like when I steal the ball, he tips it and it goes into the backcourt, but it never hits, it never deflects off of team A. Can team A go get the ball from the backcourt?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they can.
Yep.
So that's not a backcourt violation?
No.
Nope.
Why is that? Because team B never had control.
They never touched the ball. A teammate never touched the ball in the front court.
Mm-hmm.
I think
They
we
had
need
it in
to
the front
revert.
court.
I
They
think
had
we
it in
need
the
to
front court.
guys, I think we need to revert to Rule 4. Tariq, we've discussed this a few times now, and you're not buying in yet. So the only option you have left is to get in the case book. That play situation we're talking about is in Rule 4 of the case book.
Rule 4 and Rule 9, and the whole
Yeah.
Rule 9 references Rule 4. So that's why Rule 4 is so important. Team control did not change because they weren't the last to touch the ball in the front court. So that's why that's different. So if Team B knocks it away, nobody touches it, goes in the back court, anybody can go get it. That's the basis of the rule.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
No problem.
All right. So real quick, let me go through these slides that I have that I wanted to share with you guys. Talking about officiating with vision. It's kind of going to piggyback off of what we've been kind of discussing tonight. So it's kind of ironic you guys were asking these questions because this is definitely some good information. And hopefully, you guys are understanding the rules a little bit better and how to apply the rules. One thing I've always stated that it's one thing to read the rule, it's a whole different thing to know how to apply the rule. All right. Jeff, are you still sharing your screen?
I don't believe so.
Okay, hold on. Let me remove it because I'm trying to optimize video over here on my end. Hold on 1 second. I have to give it back to you. Let me see if it changed. For some reason, it didn't let me change that. Okay. All right. Well, I'll still put it back there.
You sharing it or about to?
Yeah, but it won't let me optimize now, but that's okay. I'll just have to do it a different way. All right. So we're talking about officiating with vision, and this is really kind of going back to everything we've been discussing. We talked about the diagram and making sure that we understand our primary coverage areas. Always call what you see and see what you call. I say this all the time. Call what you see and see what you call. You can't be out here officiating and not paying attention to what's going on in the game. That's what we get paid to do. We get paid to know the rules, we get paid to enforce the rules, and we get paid to call what we see and see what we call at all times. That's very important. All right. Now let's talk about the vision. So anticipating the play and not the call. You'll hear that a lot. That's something you're going to hear from a lot of people. Anticipate the play, not the call. Well, what does that really mean? 3 things you need to know when you officiate. You need to know where the ball is, know where the players are, and know where your partners are. Okay, so just for example, foreground, background, and peripheral. These are the types of visions that we have to use, or as we like to say, primary, secondary coverage areas. Okay, so primary would be foreground, secondary would be like background area. Okay, and obviously we always using our peripherals because we got to be able to see things as players move in and out. Like Gary and Jeff were talking earlier, the players are fluid. They're fluid. The game is fluid. The ball's going to keep moving all over. It's going to go on the opposite side. It's going to be on ball side. It's going to be on weak side. It's going to come down the middle of the lane. It's going to get kicked out to the 3-point shot. So we just have to know how to keep adjusting our vision based on where the ball is moving. Okay. Start, develop, finish. Then make your decisions. Okay. Look at the play, let the play start, let the play develop, let the play finish. Then make a decision. Do we have a whistle on the play? Do we not have a whistle on the play? Do we have a foul on the play? Do we have is the play no foul where we should just let them play on? These are things that you have to start processing. And again, we're going to say this a million times over. You got to see plays. You got to see plays. The more you see plays, the more you'll understand how to let the play start, develop, finish. And more importantly, it also teaches you how to have a patient whistle. meaning that you won't be reactionary because you see some contact. You'll say, oh, that contact was marginal, play on, or that contact is worthy of a whistle. Beep, foul. Got a whistle on the play, report your foul, and continue on with the game. All right. And this goes back to what I think somebody brought up a question earlier. Don't call what you can't explain. Okay. Well, if you can't see something 100%, don't call it. Okay. I'm not going to guess, as like Gary was talking about the curl plays, curling away. Jeff and Gary talking about curl plays when we were talking about the diagram at the beginning of the meeting. If the player is curling away from you, 9 times out of 10, you can only see anything that's on the backside of that player. Okay. Or if they get pushed from behind, or if somebody hits them from behind or grabs the jersey from behind, you can only see what on that side if the play curls away from you. Okay. If the play is curling to you, now you see everything on the front side. So if the player is dribbling and as he's curling away from let's say the player is curling away from Jeff, but it's curling towards you. Okay. As you see that player curling towards you, but then he gets hit on the arm, Jeff can't see that. He can see maybe the arm being, the swipe, but he doesn't know if there was contact or not made because Jeff is seeing the backside of the player because the player curled away from Jeff. It's like if you walk away from somebody, they see your backside. But when you're walking to somebody, they see your front side. Okay. So it's the same concept when we're officiating. Okay. So curl
Clarence,
away.
what you're saying is let plays come to you.
Exactly. Let plays come to you. Okay. So as the lead, guess what? The plays are going to come to you. Why is that? Because the basket is where the lead is. And guess what the players are trying to do? They're trying to score a basket. Okay. But what you have to do also is a technique that we always talk about is keeping the air in your stomach, in your belly. Okay. Don't keep your air up here in your chest, because what will happen is if you see something and that air is up here in your chest, typically you're going to blow right away. Okay. And that's not what we want you to do. We want you to keep the air in your belly, to process the play, let the play start, develop, finish, then make a decision. Do we have a whistle on the play? Do we not have a whistle on the play? Again, that's something that you learn through experience and watching plays, watching plays, watching plays. All right. See plays and understand situations. Okay. What plays are yours and what plays are not? Going back to the diagram, the court diagram, we talked about primary coverage areas. What's your primary coverage area? That's what it was on the diagram. Okay. And now you have to start learning, okay, this is my starting point. Okay. So depending on where the ball is, this is my guideline of, okay, or some people like, I went to one camp and one clinician, he said, well, okay, just think of the primary coverage area as your house. Okay. Each house has a boundary line. You can't go in your neighbor's yard without your neighbor's permission. Okay. Same thing. When we're officiating, we are responsible for our primary coverage area. I can't go into Gary's primary area without Gary's permission. Okay. So I'm not going to just go bombarding his area, trying to tell him what to do in his area. I'm going to take care of my area. He's going to take care of his area. Jeff is going to take care of his area. So each one of us is going to do that. Now, if we do that really, really well, we really don't have to worry about secondary coverage areas too much. Because guess what? If we're refereeing our primary area consistently and we're strong in our primaries at all time, we don't have to worry about those secondary coverage areas as often. We're aware of them. We're always aware, but I don't have to worry about saying, oh, I got to help Jeff in his secondary, in my secondary, because Jeff can't see that play. Unless I know Jeff can't see that play, then I'll have to have a whistle on it, or a cadence whistle, meaning I'm going to let the play start, develop, finish. Jeff doesn't have anything. And if it's an ant or elephant, if it's an elephant, meaning it's a big play that everybody at the top of the gym can see that, we got to call it. Okay, that's an obvious play. Okay, and that's another terminology that I didn't put in there, but you hear the terminology, is it an ant or an elephant? Meaning, is it something big? Is it an elephant? Is it something that's obvious? Or is it an ant? Is it something really small, something maybe marginal that maybe we need to pass on? Okay, that didn't affect.
Stay away from the ants.
Stay away from the ants, okay? Because the ants will make you itch. All right. Focus and refocus. Okay. This is one thing that you'll learn in this occupation. You have to constantly focus and refocus. Why? Because the game is going to it's going to kind of be an up and down type situation. It's going to have its highs and its lows. It's going to get physical. It may be boring sometimes. But guess what? You have to focus and refocus. Is the terminology that we also talk about is self-talk. You have to talk to yourself constantly to stay engaged in the game, especially when there's a blowout game. team is winning by 20, 30, 40, 50 points, you really got to keep yourself in the game. Why? Because you want to make sure that you still officiate that game as if it was a tie ball game. Okay. You want to make sure that you and your partners are locked in. We're still not letting anything get away from us. We're not going to let players just make a travesty of the game because they're winning by 45 points or 50 points or 30 points or whatever it may be. We still want to make sure that we still have some respect for the game and that we officiate the game the way that the game allows us, the way the rules tell us to officiate the game. Okay.
Preventive officiating, right, fellas?
Preventative officiating. So you notice how everything that we're talking about, it goes back to those terminologies that we were talking about earlier. So again, these are just things that you're going to hear repeatedly over and over throughout your career, your officiating career. But the whole point of it is to learn how to apply it in the right situations. Okay. So when we focus and refocus, we're moving our vision from foreground to background, or from primary coverage area to secondary coverage area, and sometimes back to primary again, depending on if the ball comes back in your primary coverage area. So again, it's a fluid, as the ball's moving, as we all know, we've seen basketball games before, the ball moves. As the ball moves, the players move. And as the players move, our primary and secondary coverage areas are going to constantly change from moment to moment, play to play, quarter to quarter, game to game. So you just have to understand how to stay in tune with the flow of the game, okay? Because that's important as well. All right, so here's a diagram, and I'm going to cover just like the trail position, the center position, and the lead position. And you can use the same concept if it was a two-person, but we're just using a still picture just so that you can understand what things or what areas you should be looking at. We talked about the court diagram earlier. Now we're going to kind of start looking at this in a more realistic situation. Okay, so now let's start with the trailed official here. Okay, we have blue 44 and white 30 here. White is on defense and blue is on offense. As you can see, blue 44 was beating white 30 off the dribble going to the basket. So the trail's position is what? His primary area coverage is what? 44 blue, 30 white. So in his head, he's thinking, I got 44 blue and 30 white. Oh, 44 is beating 30 off the dribble. So even though 30 is the primary defender, now guess what? The background view or the secondary view of the trail is this person over here that's in white, which is the secondary defender that can step up and help his teammate, which is the primary defender, in this case, 44 beats the primary defender off the dribble. Secondary defender could possibly step up. So the trail is aware of that. He's aware of things is blue 11 over here in the corner. Okay, so these are things that you have to understand is what you're looking for in real time. Again, we're just taking a snapshot and kind of freezing the frame here just so you can see. Also, let's look at the center position. Okay, what's their primary coverage area? Okay, they got an off ball. Remember that the diagram earlier? All those players that's in the center, that green area, that's what the center's responsibility. So they have to be aware of these four players here. Okay, we have two white, we have two blue. All right, they have to be aware of that. But at the same token, that you want that center to be able to use his peripheral to help on this play. Why? Because guess what? The trail might get straight line at some point. Okay, you want to have just take a quick glance over there just to see, yes, is this physically out of the center's primary coverage area based on that chart diagram? Yes, it is. But we want to help our partners out. So this goes back to what we were saying earlier about trusting your partner. Okay, so if the center never looks over there, let's say if blue 44 is driving to the basket and he uses this left arm and pushes 30 in the stomach, the trail may not see that push. Okay, but the center may have a little insight to say, oh, no, he pushed him off. That's a foul. Okay, he can take a look over there, a quick look, and then put his eyes back on the primary coverage area. So it's just being aware of your primary coverage area and your secondary coverage area. So that your peripheral, as you can see, the guidelines, the lines here, also is picking up white 5. Well, 24 blue is not really into the play, but guess what? That's still the center's responsibility. Okay, so these are things that you got to pay attention to at all times. So now let's look at the lead. Okay, again, foreground or primary coverage area for the lead is I don't know what number this is, but white that's here, that's the secondary defender to 30. Okay, and then we got blue 11. So this is the foreground. This is the primary coverage area for the lead in this particular play. Okay, and again, now the lead is also using this peripheral vision to pick up these players. Why is that important? Because guess what? These are the next two defenders that could potentially cause us some problems if this player drives to the basket. Okay, so we want to be able to pick all of these up. Now, Here's the crazy part. When you put this all together, this is what it looks like. I call it the matrix. But it goes back to a terminology we talked about earlier about boxing the players in, making sure we can keep all those players in our visual confines. Okay, my primary coverage areas and our secondary. So think of your primary as what you see directly in front of you, what you know is obvious. But your peripheral is kind of like your secondary, or you saying, okay, I see what's my primary, but also I'm aware of what's happening around my primary or that's near my primary. Okay, that's important. Why? Because even though this player, let's say this player is driving to the basket, what if white five as blue is coming in here? What if white five just gives him a cheap shot? Well, that's the center's responsibility. He has to pick that up. Yes, it's not dealing with the ball or the action play of the ball, but you still have to pick that up. We're responsible for that. Okay, we're responsible for those things because guess what? It may not happen often, but those things do happen, and you got to be able to pick those up. I'll say this: whenever you
Lot
are
of them.
whenever you are a great off-ball official, guess what? You make the crew look great. When you can call off-ball fouls and you can say you get all that off-ball action and you keep the crew out of trouble, guess what? You are the one that's gonna get the
How
best
do
official
you?
award for the night. Okay.
So
So
I
we
was
always want to
trying
focus on
to.
those things because those things are very important. All right. All right.
And then
Now,
something else to think about too, guys, is that you also want to look for the competitive matchups. And there's a way to in this situation, the where you see the center position where they're looking at the peripheral, there really is really one or two competitive matchups in that particular location. For the lead, when you see the foreground, maybe they have the white and the black player that are there, but really, I'm not 100% sure that's a competitive matchup either because they're not unless the dribbler throws it to the player in the corner. He's probably not going to even be worried about that player, or if he's not a good shooter, whatever, he may not even worry about that player. So you want to also look for the competitive matchup. The one that we talked about where Clarence made the comment about the guys at the top of the key, that may or may not be a competitive matchup right now because if the black 24 stays out there, probably the white with 5 is not going to be worried about him unless again he's a good shooter and maybe want to take away the pass. But at this particular moment in this snapshot, if we can look for the competitive matchups, you can sometimes eliminate players that aren't going to be a problem for you to watch. And that's kind of that's the thought process behind that. Because again, this player drives all the way to the basket. This is probably 2 or 3 players maybe more, maybe 4, because the defender that's guarding him initially still might go to the basket with him and foul or try to defend that play. So it's about angles at that point. It might not be something one of the officials can see, but another official might open up to.
To your point about angles, Jeff, should the trail like shade towards the baseline there if they're driving to the basket to see the contact?
Well, if the player is going to the basket, yes, they should probably step down and follow the basketball a step or two. They don't need to be in a hurry to move, but but a step or two is fine because it may just be where they need to get a good angle because if something happens on the side where the lead and the trail is, maybe they're the only ones that see that contact depending on what that defenders are doing that are in the leads area. He may get screened off from whatever. But again, this play is developed. This is just one snapshot of his play. Because if he goes right to the basket and throws it out to somebody, now our whole view has to change or what we're looking at because then there's a different coverage area, different peripheral, different background, different primary. Because if for example, this player goes to the basket and he kicks it out to 24 at the top of the key. Well, probably what's going to happen is 5 is going to close down, maybe, and maybe, depending on the situation, 4, the one that's kind of on the side of the center, the white player, he might close out on the other player depending on the type of shooter that they are. So there's all kind of movement that you got to consider in this particular situation. This is when I say this is a moment, guys, this is just a moment because it literally in a split second can completely change now what I got to watch. And then the other thing that's happening too is the lead. So let's say that same player goes to the basket and he kicks it out to the player that's on the lead side. Even though where he's standing is not technically the lead position, but he might be the one that can see how his defender ran at him and whether he hit him on one side of his body, especially the side that the lead is on. So this can all change in a matter of a half a second or a second. So you have to, that's kind of what Clarence was talking about. You got to focus and refocus. Like, okay, it's going over here. I got to look at this for a moment. Oh, is he on it? Okay, he's on it. Now I can go to something else. Or he's not on it. He doesn't see this side of the play, but he's got to look at this. That's how your mind has to be. And I would say this, self-talk does a lot. 24 is my player. 24 is my player. He's driving to the basket. He's okay. Is he going to? Is he legal? No, he's not. and that might be all things that I'm saying to myself out loud to some extent, or private. We're not saying I'm saying out loud. I'm not yelling them, but I might be saying it like 24. Yep, 24. Okay, he's legal. No, he's not. And then I have a whistle and helps me think through the play. Or that's not my place. Going away. The trail. He goes to the basket. He got hit on the arm. It missed badly. No whistle. That was a foul. Boom, foul.
Mm-hmm.
Because I clearly saw that nobody else saw that. I saw the contact.
Let me give you something to think about, everyone. This would be the perfect coverage if, say, 44 with the ball, dribble drive?
44, yes.
Okay, center right now is in great position. The lead is on between the U and the N on Young on the in line. I would like to see the lead official out on the G in this particular ball location play. And the trail would come down the sideline, staying connected into the lead primary. If the trail, and maybe they did all this because this is just one shot here. Maybe lead did go out to the G. Maybe trail did stay connected down to the lead primary on the dribble drive, and C didn't have to do anything other than just stay where he's at because he's got a great position and great look right now. So if those two, lead and trail, would adjust it a little bit as I suggested, I think they would have had the perfect coverage on that dribble drive play to the basket.
Absolutely.
We good?
Absolutely. Great.
We good?
Yeah, that's a great point, Gary. You hit the nail right on the head. And I think that's the other thing too is, Jeff, you hit the nail on the head too with self-talk. That's one thing. We've been fortunate enough because we've been around a long time. We know people that work the NBA, the WNBA, and college, and they one of the things that they talk about all the time. I mean all the time is self-talk. You have to talk to yourself. You have to say, hey, if you're the trail, 44 blue is the ball handler, 30 is the defender. Okay, he's beat him off the dribble. Okay, and then you got to know, okay, where can he possibly go with the ball? And here's another thing that can help save you too. If you're familiar with the teams that you're officiating and you know that their offensive sets or the general, motion or whatever they're running, that'll help you kind of know where the ball may go to. Okay, so if like you said, if 44 is the ball handler, but 11 is the three-point shooter on their team, 9 times out of 10, when this guy drives to the basket, he's going to be looking to pass that ball to 11 because they want to try to get a three-point shot. They want this defender to close into the lane, get an open person to the shot, get 11 open for a shot to try to shoot a 3. Well, guess what? If we know that ahead of time, or we see that this shooter has a hot hand, we as a crew have to know, oh, you know what? Let me try to get an angle because this guy's got a hot hand. He's got 15 points already, or whatever the case may be, so okay, and watch this. We're going to give you another little nugget. What if he's a left-handed shooter? What if he's a right-handed shooter? How do you officiate those plays if you're in a trail in this position? What if that shooter was on this side of the court? How would the center officiate that play? So you have to kind of know these little things. And these are just little tips that you pick up along the way through your experience. But, for right now, for what we're teaching, we want you to just understand primary coverage area, secondary coverage area. So the primary would be your foreground, your secondary would be your background, and you're always, and I mean always, you're using your peripheral vision. Okay. Those are the things that's going to help keep you engaged in the game and having self-talk. Once you do that, the more you do that, the better off you're going to be. Because now once you start saying, hey, I got rule 4 down. I know my rules. I know my definitions. Now you take this concept and you put it all together, you're going to start seeing your game get better and better and better. You're going to start seeing a sign saying, hey, I'm going to put you on this tougher ball game. Because again, you're going to get better at seeing these types of plays and knowing how to adjudicate those types of plays. All right. All right. So responsibilities. We're talking about fouls and violations. These are things that we're responsible for. Okay. That's primarily what we're officiating is we're looking for fouls and violations. That's 99.9% of what we're doing when we're out there on that floor. We're trying to make sure that we enforce the rule book and we address the fouls and violations. Primary whistle cadence. Okay. Again, these terminologies we talked about earlier of having a whistle cadence. Okay. Plays to officiate from top to bottom. Okay, this is something you definitely want to write down or take notes of. Points of contact with plays, especially plays going to the basket. Okay, if I know players going to the basket and he's going up for a shot, I'm looking to see anything from wrist to elbow. That's the first thing I'm looking for. Why? Because typically the defender's trying to block the shot. They're trying to go for the ball. Sometimes they don't hit the ball. They hit the hand. They hit the arm, or they hit the wrist, or they hit the elbow. Okay, plays at the rim. Okay, basket interference or goaltending plays or post plays. These are plays that we officiate from top to bottom. Okay, meaning that we're looking at the players from top to bottom. All right, plays that we officiate from bottom to bottom up are considered block charge plays, our screening plays, or traveling plays. Why is that important? Because all of those plays, all three of those types of plays, start with the feet. Okay, it starts with the feet. If we watch the feet and we see what happens with the feet, we can get those block charge plays. We can get those screen plays, where they're legal or illegal. We can see those traveling plays. Okay, no matter how fast they try to move, the more you train your eyes to say, oh, player caught the ball on the perimeter, you're going to know I got to watch the feet first. Okay, player drives to the basket or they shooting a jump shot. Guess what? I got to officiate from top to bottom. Now I got to see, is there contact anywhere on the forearm to elbow, and then from the body all the way down. Okay, so these are types of little things these are things that you have to start remembering, because it's going to help you learn how to officiate plays in real time. Okay, any questions? I mean, maybe, I don't know if anybody got any questions. Is anything in the chat, Jeff?
We had some questions earlier from some stuff, but
Okay.
maybe Johnny, real quick, ask the question: does it apply to out of bounds, or were you talking about the backcourt situation? Real
I think
quick,
he
unmute
was.
yourself. Ask
Johnny, are you there?
Johnny, you there?
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, I just don't mean to overcomplicate this. I know we took a lot of time on it, but I was wondering if that same principle applied to out of bounds calls. Team A is in possession of the ball. Team B interrupts the dribble, and it bounces off out of bounds. Is it cut and dry if it's an out of bounds call? If it went off Team B, it's out regardless. If it went off Team A,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
okay. That's cut and dry. Okay, cool.
It's pretty cut and dry, because if that's a different rule, different circumstances, but that's a good question. The concept's similar, but it's not exactly the same. But yeah, it's it's simply who it went last out on. We let the play continue, because also in that situation, Team B could get to the ball first. Then there's no violation. So that's why that's different.
Makes sense.
And then someone did ask, and I want to address this. Someone did ask about the rule books being sent out. Gary, you might be able to answer this a lot better than I would. I know once they are done with the fall sports, they do start kind of sending some stuff out. So we may get some stuff, I think, late September, early October, typically, I think, our rule books. And I'm not sure if this is a rule book year. And the reason that's important, if you've been officiating and you didn't pay for a rule book to be sent to you, they won't send you one if it's a rule book. I just don't remember. Forgive me, I don't remember if it's a rule book year.
The rule interpreter meeting is September 25th. We will have our rule books and case books from the National Federation at that date. And then shortly right after the rule interpretations meeting in Bloomington on the 25th, then they will send out the booklets. I'm going to do everything in my power to get that sent out a lot earlier this year, if possible. Now, it's already been, all the rule changes and everything have already been confirmed because, quite frankly, the IBA book has got everything in there already.
Mhm.
So, and for those of you that I have my opinion, so take it as it is or as I think. The rule book is a pretty easy read. The case book from the National Federation is a very hard read. And for the last couple of weeks, I've had my IBA book, and I've had my head in that book every single day. And it's even a lot easier to read than what the National Federation has. But the National Federation rules and the IBA rules are exactly the same. The rules came from the NFHS. So, but I don't know how soon we can get those booklets sent out to you, but sooner the better for all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a shameless plug, since you just happened to mention it, definitely, if you're not an IBO member, I know we've been talking about it for the last few weeks, but the reason why we're sharing this information is because it will help your learning curve so much faster than Jeff and Gary and I when we had to learn. We wish we had IBO back then when we started
Oh, God.
officiating.
They have done a hell of a job with that handbook.
Yes, they, for that $35 membership, it is definitely worth it. And to be honest with you, like this is actually just screenshots of one of the IBO Academy training videos. I just did some screenshots of it, but
Sure.
I'm showing you guys how you can keep yourself engaged even outside of the meetings, or even your local association meetings, because really that's what it takes. It's great when you're in a meeting and you're getting your questions answered and everything is, exciting and good and you're feeling charged and really good. But what are you doing when you're by yourself? What resources do you have to keep yourself engaged and studying and getting better? And another thing, and I'm gonna tell you this, and this is something you'll learn at every level, from professional, NBA, WNBA, FIBA, college, videos is the way to go. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like you gotta watch plays. I can't say it enough. Gary can't say it enough. Jeff can't say it enough. Yes, you gotta know the rules. You gotta read the rule book and the case book. Yes, no doubt, no substitution for that. But you gotta see plays, because that's the only way you're gonna take what's in writing and put it into reality. Okay, and the real situations that you're going to experience. So again, with IABO, for those that are not members, we would encourage you to become members. I'll put the information in the chat a little bit later, so you can sign up. I'll send it in the email as well. If you've seen any of the previous emails, it's already in there. Definitely take advantage of it. They have great training materials, great resources. The You Make the Call plays, the Ref Quest, different Zoom trainings, kind of like what we're doing. They offer Zoom trainings. Jeff and I actually, and Tracey, we're actually going out to Colorado Springs in a couple of weeks for the conference, the IBO conference. Again, all of this for $35 a year. I mean, you can't beat that. So again,
Invest in yourself.
Invest in yourself. That's what it's all about. It's what's all about. So let me get to this play real quick. And this is, there's somebody, the guy who actually did the presentation, he's going to be commenting and kind of breaking the play down a little bit so that you can understand it. But the main thing is that you want to, again, just know what you're looking for when you're out here watching the games. And he played the play twice, so I'll just let it run. Hopefully you guys can hear it once it gets going. And when you watch the plays, ask yourself, what would you have on the play?
Might have to slow it down. I was choppy at the.
I figured it would be because I was trying to optimize.
Might have to. I just didn't see. I've seen this play. I just want to make sure.
Screen action that's occurring within the center's primary
Can you
coverage
hear it?
area. You notice from their
Yes.
head position that they're officiating on this play. They're assessing Is the screen legal? Is the defender legal or not? If we move the play forward, the screen is over and we have another screening action.
Every time you get a job,
You notice that the center official has done a really great job of getting off the ball. This is something that when you're evaluating yourself on your game film and plays that start in your area and transition out, are you giving that play up or are you staying on this play? Well, notice if we take this one freeze frame here, the trail official has the on-ball matchup and the center is refereeing the screening action. The center's not refereeing this screening action right now. We're going to be in a lot of trouble because I don't think anybody else is refereeing the screen. So we assess the screen, and now we've got to get to the defender and determine the legality of the defender. The center official is in a great position to see in between the offensive and defensive players. So they don't need to position adjust. If you find yourself in a good spot where you can see in between the offensive and defensive player, there is no reason to move. You don't need to step down. You don't need to step up on this play. The center official is in a great spot. Now we'll notice the defender leaves their feet. And this is really important. I know that there's a bunch of training out there in terms of flopping. And we've talked about in my local association about flopping. And not to deviate too much from our concept here of top to bottom, but flopping is really about exaggerated movements. On jump shooter plays, we have to get to the defender. We're not going to be able to assess exaggerated contact if we don't know if the defender is legal or illegal. When a defender leaves their feet and their launch angle is such that it's going towards an offensive player, they are illegal. We cannot have a flop on this play. Now, we're going to talk about here in a second, the offensive player jumps slightly to the right and towards the defender. Just like in baseball, the tie goes to the runner. The defender is never legal in this play. What the offensive player does is not overt. They're not extending their arm. They're not kicking their leg. They're jumping slightly towards the defender on this play. However, the defender is never legal. And that's when contact occurs and the official correctly blows their whistle and calls a foul on this play. The only way, if the center official on this play, if they take their vision lower, they're going to miss the legality of the defender. And you can see very clearly that the defender jumps towards the offensive player, which is why we get to the top assessing point of contact and work our way down to the floor to make sure that they are able to land safely. We don't have to get very far on this play to know that contact occurs in the torso of the offensive player, and therefore a foul is called.
So with that, you kind of get an idea of what you should be looking for in that particular situation. All right. So let's talk about secondary coverage areas, okay, or third best look, however you want to look at it. Responsibilities. You got to make sure we're assisting our partners. We're gathering information. Okay. That's what we're doing. Every time we're in our secondary coverage areas, we're just gathering information. We're assisting our partners. I like to say you're assisting the partners on their blind side, meaning if the player's curling away from me, curling away from Jeff and it's coming to me, guess what? I want to pick up that play, but I'm also going to let Jeff help me on my blind side. If the play curls away from me and goes to Jeff, same thing. I'm going to let Jeff handle the play because it's going to him. I'm going to help on his blind side, the side that he can't see. Okay. Secondary whistle cadence. Again, partners know where they are, know what they're looking at. Okay. Like on that particular play, you saw the center. He was picking up the screen before the shooter caught the ball on the wing. Okay, he was picking up the screen to see if it was legal. Then when the player caught the ball on the perimeter, he was watching the feet to make sure he didn't travel. Okay, he saw him go up in the shooting motion. Then he started refereeing from top to bottom. Okay, so those are things that you got to pay attention to. eye contact, nonverbal communications, and body language. You know, sometimes you do have to take a look at your partners to see what they're looking at. Just say, yeah, take a quick look. Just look and see, okay, I know what they're looking at or what they're not looking at. Okay, so I'm focused in over here. Okay, because what we don't want, like Jeff said earlier, we don't want all 6 eyes on one area. Or Gary said the same thing. We don't want 6 eyes or 4 eyes on one area, because that means there's some players moving around or some players in some other spaces that we're not accounting for. Okay, and those are the players that's going to cause us problems if they know we're not paying attention. Okay, shot clock, game clock. Myself, Tracy, Jeff, we talk about shot clock and game clock all the time. In other words, it's called clock management. Okay, you have to be able to know what's on that clock. Why? Some gyms you might go into, the clock may be an old system, and that clock may go in and out because there's a janky cord connected to the control unit, and somebody barely touched the cord, now the clock goes out. You need to know how much time should be on the clock when that happened at the point of interruption. You got to put that time on the clock. Okay, those are things you got to know. You got to know it's shot clock situation, because guess what? Shot clock is coming next year, everybody. We got to get ready. We got to be prepared. We got to understand. We got to pay attention to that game clock and that shot clock. More importantly, the game clock, because if you figure out what's on that game clock, you can always figure out what should be on the shot clock. Okay, so those are things you got to pay attention to. Okay,
Let's talk about that shot clock and game clock.
Go ahead.
When I was working in the college, especially with the shot clock years ago, every time I crossed the half court line, I looked up and took a peek at the game clock and shot clock, as long as I didn't have a contested matchup right in front of me. I did it from the lead position, I did it from the center position, and I did it from the trail position. If all 3 of you do that on a game, every time you cross over the half court line, take a peek, you won't have a lot of trouble with the shot clocks or the game clocks for that matter. So keep that in mind. Every time you cross half court, take a peek.
Absolutely. There was a video that I shared with Tracey and Jeff. It was Joey Crawford, former NBA official. He was doing a training on game management and game awareness. And one of the things that him and Scott Foster, there was 2 separate trainings, but they both were saying the same thing. One of the things that they ingrained in the NBA officials is to always know the clock. So the moment the ball is out of bounds, take a look at the clock. When the ball is in the back court going towards the front court and the ball is in the back court by the free throw line, take a look at the clock. When the ball crosses half court, if you can, take a look at the clock. Why are those things important? Because now you're becoming a great clock manager. That means you know for a fact, oh, it was 6 minutes and 36 seconds when the ball crossed half court. So if something happens, and whatever may happen, in your mind, or all 3 people or all 2 people, whatever the case may be, you know how much time was on that clock. Okay, you know how much time it was on that clock when the ball was out of bounds. Did they get the ball across in 10 seconds? You can do the difference by just looking at the clock. You can just look at the clock, and the clock will save you. Okay, it will save you. It will help you keep the game moving at a nice, smooth pace. But if you don't pay attention to that clock, I guarantee you that clock will make your game a nightmare. Okay, and especially if you have people at the table that's not too familiar with knowing how to work the clock, or they always constantly making mistakes, that can be a long night. So that maybe an hour and a half game or an hour and 45-minute game may turn into 2.5 hours, and no one wants that. Okay, so definitely keep your eye on that clock and know game awareness, have great game awareness situations. Going back to the word focus again, focus and refocus. Okay, your background becomes your foreground. Okay, so guess what? You got to pay attention to those things. Why are those things important? Because those are our primary and secondary coverage areas, what we should always be looking at. Always, even though it may change depending on where the ball goes or where the players move to, you always have a primary, you always have a secondary coverage area. So you definitely want to, make sure that you stay tuned and stay focused on what those areas are at all times. All right, so here's another snapshot of a play. Okay, looking at, again, 3-person crew. We got a lead down here. We have a center here, and we have a trail out here. All right, and it looks like the ball is, let's see, the ball's over here. okay, on the wing. All right, there was a shot attempt, and looks like something happened down here where white looks like they're falling on the floor. Okay, so there's some off ball coverage there. So if the ball was, let's say the ball is being shot up here or dribbled or whatever the case may be, and there's some action off over here, this is the lead's primary. Okay, the lead should be picking this up. Okay, the lead is picking up not only these two players, they're picking up these two players in the lane. Okay, it looks like a shot attempt because everybody's eyes are going up. Everybody's eyes is looking away at the ball. They're trying to follow that ball. Wherever that ball's going, that's what they're looking for. But guess what? As officials, that's not what we're looking for. Okay, we're looking for bodies. Okay, because the bodies are the ones that can get us in trouble, not the ball. All right, if that ball just bounces out of bounds, that's an easy call. Out of bounds. Ball's going the other way. But those bodies, that can get us in a whole lot of trouble if we don't referee them the right way. All right. So you can see here where the trail is, what the trail should be looking at. Okay. I think in this particular case, if this is a shot attempt, it's kind of hard to say because it's not very, very clear. But let's assume this is a shot attempt by red, a 3-point shot attempt, and looks like white is closing out on them. Okay. The trail shouldn't be right here because this is what we call straight line. If that's the case, we want the trail.
I was going to say, does anybody like to position trails in?
Absolutely not. And this is what you were just talking about, Gary. Not getting straight line, but trying to get sideline oriented, meaning over here where it says Alaska, so you can kind of see between that offensive and defensive player. Okay. So this goes back to what we're saying, move to improve or work to get the angles. Those are terminologies that we use as well. They both mean pretty much the same thing. We want to get the best angle we can so that we can try to see between the offense and defense as much as possible. It's not going to always happen. Sometimes you're going to get straight line. But again, try your best to anticipate it, being able to position adjust before the play happens, before the movement happens, if you can.
And our game is a 3-point game. So now being where he is probably not going to work in most situations anyway. You probably
Right.
at least want to be at the 28-foot mark most of the time, unless the ball is near the division line with some pressure. That's different. But if they're running their offense, we need to be probably 28-foot mark and maybe a couple steps lower as a starting point and adjust
Absolutely.
accordingly to when they decide to take a shot.
Absolutely. All right. So last couple of slides, and then we're gonna get out of here. So using your peripheral view. Okay. Again, terminology: focus, refocus. Make your peripheral your foreground by turning your head and turning your body. Okay. So don't just say, well, according to the diagram, the 3-person or 2-person diagram, I'm in my position. So now I'm a statue. I'm not going to move. You can't officiate that way. You have to move. You have to keep moving. You may have to take a step or two to your left, a step or two to your right. You may have to close down. You may have to back up and open up and get a wider view. But you have to keep moving depending on where the ball is and where the players are so that you can officiate the game the proper way. All right. Secondary responsibilities. Preventative officiating. We talked about that terminology earlier. Okay. Players and coaches. Guess what? Players and coaches can cause you a big problem if you don't know how to prevent certain things from happening. If you don't communicate properly, if you don't use the proper terminology when needed, if you don't know how to have good personal skills to try to de-escalate various situations when possible, those things can actually blow up if we don't handle them the right way. And that can make for a long night if we on our game, and we don't want that to happen as well. All right. Situational awareness. Coaches calling a timeout. Well, guess what? If it's a close ball game, let's say team A just scored and team B is trying to get the ball in bounds, but team B coach is saying timeout, 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 timeout. We got to know with the momentum of the game that guess what? I need to take a look over at team B's coach because see if he's going to call a timeout. Just take a quick second and look over there. Okay. If you can look over there and you see that he's calling timeout, okay, grant him the timeout. Okay, you don't want their team to get the ball in play and now they get the ball in bounds and now he's stuck and maybe make a turnover, what have you. If we can prevent that from happening by having game awareness, understanding the momentum of the game and how the game is shifting, and understanding that guess what? If a team is making a run, typically the opposing team is going to probably call a timeout at some point. So we just take a look over there and see, hey, is the coach, does he want a timeout? If you see that he's asking for it, grant him or her the timeout. All right.
And this is not always the closest official. This is
Correct.
sometimes an official that's across the court, might even be several feet away. when the timeout is being requested. So your awareness is not just because I'm standing in front of the coach. Your awareness might be, you might be 50 feet away and you're the one that sees the gesture of the timeout from the head coach.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Situational awareness when you're talking about problem players, players that can cause a problem. You have certain players that come in that, I like to call them the bruiser. Okay. That may be the football player coming in to set the hard screen or to go get the tough rebounds in a crucial situation. Those are players that we got to be mindful of in the game, because guess what? They can cause problems in certain situations. We don't want that
Game
to happen.
wreckers.
Yeah, exactly. Game wreckers. Okay. Game wreckers. That's exactly what we can call them, game wreckers. And we don't want that to happen. Okay. Going to the monitor. Well, we don't go to the monitor because we're not in college, but if we did have a monitor, that would be part of our responsibility. But keeping the crew out of trouble, like that's our goal. We don't want the crew to get in any trouble at all. Okay. And if all three of us are on the same page, if we're communicating from the pregame, throughout the game, all the way to the end of the game, then we shouldn't have any major problems when we're out there officiating our games.
We
All
got to
right.
be our own monitor, guys. We have the three or the
Previously.
two officials. We got to be our own monitor.
Right. So here's an example of using that same snapshot we just saw a little while ago. Here's the actual play. I know it's not crystal clear, but he's commenting on the play and kind of breaking it down so that we can understand what the officials should be looking for in certain situations.
I'm going to play it 2 times, and then we're going to talk through it together. We'll show it one more time, and then we'll talk about it as a group. Okay, a great learning situation for everybody. So we have a dribble drive going to the basket. Seemingly, in this frame, we'd like to see the trail official maybe at the 28-foot mark, a little bit more compressed. The lead official maybe a little bit wider to help have better vision in terms of the dribble drive here. But seemingly they have their vision on the secondary defender. We have a drive to the basket, a legal block shot, and a player go to the floor. One thing, if you can take into your game, is we should always have an awareness and have an understanding of when and why players go to the floor. That does not mean that we should have a whistle. But if we know why bodies went onto the floor and where they went onto the floor, it's going to put ourselves in a much better position to know, is there going to be any retaliation, or to be able to explain to a coach why those players went to the floor. Because a coach may be distracted, and all of a sudden one of their players are on the floor, and they start freaking out thinking that there must have been a foul. But if we know that there was incidental contact on the play, or a legal defensive play, then we're able to provide that information. So we have a player that goes to the floor. And then we have offensive player retains possession, comes into the center official's view. Now, if you'll notice, in this freeze frame right here, the white defender has cozied right up to our offensive player who has gone to the floor. Quite close to them. In fact, putting themselves into the body of the offensive player, who then takes exception to that. Oh, bother. Back. Who goes to the floor. They take. I'm going to get it. Bear with me.
Loopers and everything.
They take exception to it and Do they shove the player, or did the defender put themselves in harm's way and then take a dive? Not really for our discussion this evening. However, one thing is clear is the crew misses it entirely. Ideally, the lead official, after this player goes to the floor, should have 2 eyes and be watching this the whole time. There's no reason to officiate the post play that's going on right now. The center official can referee this play. We need to make sure that we know why this player went to the floor. In an ideal state, we would have a whistle on this, offensive or defensive, just a whistle on this play. We don't. And as a result of that, as any coach would do, they react to their player going to the floor while a jump shot is going on. Now, if we look in this freeze frame right now, trail officials trying to get to a spot to see the feet. The lead official is refereeing rebounding, and nobody sees this coach charging down the sideline. The official who probably has the best look at this, the center official. Now, I'm not advocating that the center official is going to come all the way over and assess a technical foul to the head coach here. However, they're probably the best person to have an awareness on this play.
Well, I'm not going to cut it off right there, guys, but you kind of get the idea of how to deal with this type of situation and what type of awareness we need to have to make sure that we adjudicate these types of plays, because those are the types of plays where a player gets pushed to the floor. Now one player is mad and going to try to retaliate, if not right away, maybe on the other end or things like that. And that can make, as Gary said, the game records, it can make your game a long night, and you don't want that. Okay, so again, just making sure you know your primary coverage areas, your secondary coverage areas, and always use your peripherals. Always use your peripherals, because again, we want to make sure that we manage all 10 players at all times, and we don't want anything to get past us as much as possible, because we want to make sure that we have a great game, a well officiated game, and make sure that we are the best crew that's out there that particular night. So with that being said, I'm not going to hold anybody up. If you guys got questions, I'll stick around. We'll stick around and answer any questions. But Gary or Jeff, you guys want to kind of say any final remarks before we head out?
Go ahead, Jeff.
Well, guys, we will decide probably in the next week or so, or within the week, whether what days we will continue to train it. It'll probably be Monday. I think it will be Monday. But what we're going to decide was how many meetings we'll have moving forward for at least September, and we'll probably decide here very soon for October and November or not as well. But keep in mind, guys, I think Clarence will put in the chat. Become an IBO member. I'm telling you now, you are going to get so much more of this and more so than what we can talk about in one night or in a week. So please do that. We are going to the conference. Us 3 of us are going to the conference. Tracey, myself, and Clarence. There will be some more information that was coming back. I know they have a video called "You Make the Ruling" that's coming out. We will see the book. We'll have way more information. There are people literally from all over the country that come to this conference, and we're going to go really around the world. Yeah, exactly. But if you want to join, it's only $35, guys. I would suggest that this is a great opportunity. We've got Gary on board. We've got some other individuals on board, and we really want to help you. Now, also make it very clear, we are not trying to take away from your local officials associations. If you still attend your local official association, But the more information that you have, the better off you will be. Our goal is to continue this pretty much through most of the year. I mean, yes, we may take a little break at some points, especially after the season or whatever, but we plan to do this pretty much at some capacity, probably most months, for sure. Life happens, so we may have some changes, but definitely join this organization. And if you like these trainings, please feel free to keep in contact with us, and we will help you with any information. That's all I got right now. Gary, I'll let you finish out, sir.
Okay, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for your participation tonight. I know we go rather long on some of these meetings at times, but we want to teach you as much as we possibly can. We have learned from Clarence, Jeff, and myself. We have learned from some of the very best officials in the country at the camps and clinics that we go to. A lot of this information was filtered down from the college D1 level to the high school level. And my number one goal in the position that I'm in with the IHSA right now is I want everybody to be able to do the same thing as far as game philosophy, mechanics, game calling, game management. I want us to be able to do it consistently in every part of the state, north, south, east, and west. And I think that the last 4 weeks, we have really done a great job, and I think we're off to a good start in accomplishing those goals that I would like to see come and put into place for us. So don't be afraid to go out into these games and make a mistake. A mistake is the best learning tool that you can possibly have. And what I mean by that is when you make a mistake in the game of basketball, it is most of the time so magnified that you will not make that same mistake more than one time, more than 2 times at the most. Seeing plays, I continue to say every week, you have to see plays, whether it's in the 10th row of the bleachers at a game when you don't have a game, or if you did the sophomore game and you sucked around and watched the varsity game, that's seeing plays. If you're sitting in your living room with a cold drink and a sandwich, watching a ball game, that is seeing plays. You prep yourself by not even have a game. What happens is something stupid happens in one of your games, and you say, "Oh my God, yeah, I seen Simeon and whoever, they had that happen in their game, and I seen what they did." So you learn by seeing mistakes and seeing plays. So don't get down on yourself because you make a mistake. We encourage mistakes, just not in the last 15 seconds of the game, okay? So again, thank you for your time and your participation. Best of luck to everyone.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for being on the call tonight. Like I said, we'll definitely continue this training. We'll follow up in an email to let you know the date and the time when we'll continue it. But we definitely want to keep this going to provide you guys with the best quality of officiating training that we can give you and to help you guys be the best officials that you can be. So
I got one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just how can we receive the recording training so we can go back and look at have a closer look at the things we talked about?
Yeah, I'll post I'll share the link to the trainings. I'm waiting, Jeff, because we had some technical issues last week.
Okay.
For Jeff to redo last week's training. Once he sends that out to me, I'll post that. He's gonna work on that. You're muted, Jeff.
No pressure. That's okay.
Yeah, no pressure. He's going to work on that to get that to me, but I'll definitely get this recording out to you guys so that you can go back and watch the information. But again, definitely take advantage of the IBO membership because again, they send out so many types of video trainings and things that you guys can plug into, even outside of this particular training or any other training in your associations that you are part of. But again, that's really, to be honest with you, that's really the key to being a better official is what you do when you're by yourself, because it's easy to join a meeting and get excited and learn stuff at the meeting, but it's like, what are you doing when you're by yourself? Are you talking to your mentors? Are you going out to watch games? Are you breaking down film? You know, things like that. Those are the tools that's going to help you get better, along with knowing the rules and the things that we're talking about on this particular training, and probably some of the other trainings that you've been a part of. Those are the things that's going to help you become better official. But yeah, we'll get the video out to you guys as soon as we possibly can.
Thank you all. Really appreciate it. It's been very,
No
very
problem.
good listening to you guys and picking up this knowledge. It's been a godsend. But bless you
Good.
hard.
Good. Glad you
Thank
guys are
you.
enjoying
Thank
it.
you very
Appreciate
much.
that very
Appreciate
much.
that. Thank you.
Somebody did ask a question about they don't see the training. Clarence has a link in the chat that goes right to the site to sign up through our directly our board 267.
You talking about for eyeball?
I'm assuming that's what he's talking about. If it's not, then please clarify that.
Yeah.
But he put the link in the chat. There are many past him, but then you just click on that link. It should take you right to the thing. It also offers credit card payment or debit card payment as well. But your name, and it goes right to our board membership information.
And feel free to spread the word to other officials too about IBO. We know it's not just for you guys. I mean, it's for everybody. So anybody that wants to take advantage of what they have to offer as far as the training resources, if you're a new official or a veteran official, doesn't matter. Gary said it best. It's enough information in there for everybody. We all can learn together. That's what it's all about. So yeah, but thank you guys for being on the call. Again, we want to appreciate you guys. Hopefully you guys are getting off to a right start. And hopefully if there's anything we can do, feel free to reach out. We'll be more than happy to share our knowledge and expertise with you guys to continue helping you be successful on your officiating journey. All right. Well, I'll stick around if anybody else got any questions. I think Jeff will stick around. I'm not sure, Gary, if you're going to get off or not. But again, thank you, everybody. And, have a great evening. Good night.
Clarence.
Yeah.
Johnny, are you still on the call?
Yeah,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Where do you live?
I live in the south suburbs, but I work in the city. I have a commute, so that
What south suburb? Just curious.
Oak Forest.
Okay. The most assigners, well, I'll say this. Assigners are still doing lower levels all over the place. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities. I know just even the CPS, Clarence could talk about that. They probably have not assigned much of anything at this point, but there's also a background check. That's a whole nother issue. We can talk about that at another time, or unless you need details, Clarence can get more information about that. But most assigners for the newer officials have not assigned everything. They've assigned some stuff, but they haven't assigned everything. And we're still, there's always going to be opportunities. You got to sign up to Arbiter in Chicago area, because all the Chicago area assigners are associated with Arbiter.